It's time for Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show, ramping up to your weekend across your view screen on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, where we track and cover all things Doctor Who, from the way back then to the right here and the right now, all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions just like you. And yeah, the new season of Doctor Who, the current season, is up and running, but there seems to be a storm coming, a bit of lightning maybe. You heard it here before anywhere else. We're connecting back with the latest rumours and looking to what's ahead in the 4th episode of this season, coming very, very soon, as well as skipping across the channel to the city of love, no less. This time with us here on Type 40 Live. Hey, yes, and hello. Good boy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the console room. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. There I am. And yeah, we'll find out who you are in a moment or two. Can't wait to get started. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Don't worry. As well as everything else from the classic series, the new series, as well as plenty of the all-new as well. Keep those comments flying in, and we'll get to those in a moment or two. I don't doubt. But yeah, he's a good boy, but he's wondering where the master is, or the mistress, for that matter. This is what I call, this was a childhood and a half. I imagine it was, plenty of you will probably remember these days very, very fondly too. But where is doggy treats? I don't know. There's not even a bowl. Is there any kind of snack waiting for him there? But yeah, let's fill up the console room. Get into it right away. And first of all, I'm delighted to welcome back after a couple of weeks away, which is one of the reasons why I've decked it out in the Tom Baker livery for this show, is to welcome back after a good couple of weeks, Mr. Simon Horton. Where is he? There he is.
There I am, everybody. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be back with you. And yeah, sorry, I've been out, lost in the temporal schism for a couple of weeks.
So you call it.
Something like that. But gosh, that
on remand, I heard. No, but the truth is, you've been doing everything. You've been performing. You've been chairing. You've been doing all sorts of things.
I have. I've been the last couple of weeks have been very busy. And this week actually is the busiest I've been in a very, very, very long time. So I don't actually know why I'm here. I shouldn't be here, Dan. I should not be here. I should be somewhere else doing something else, I'm sure. I've got the diary and I'm like only one day ahead. I can't even look more than one day ahead because my brain is just melting. So I've probably got something in my diary that I should be doing this evening, and I'm not, and I'm here. So that's all good as far as I'm concerned. It's nice. I'm in the right place.
Nice to be in demand, isn't it? And yeah, so this is why we've got K9 there waiting faithfully on the floor of the TARDIS.
Everybody knows that I love this console room. And I love being able to see the Doctor's outfits just hanging from the hat stand in the back there. I used to love it when they did this, particularly in the Tom Baker days. They did it. I can see there the cape from the Tanners of Weng-Chiang and the Deerstalker hat. And I used to love it. You wonder, don't you, why they haven't done this with Ncuti Gatwa having so many costume changes. They could bring this idea back. They just have the hat stand there and just put 2 or 3 of his outfits just hanging nonchalantly on the hat stand. And I actually think that would be a nice throwback to the classic show.
That's a really good point. If you're going to have a Doctor who is a fashionista and a clothes horse, which I object to on a fundamental level, but if you're going to go with that, then you could sort of lean into it.
Yeah,
really. I mean, unless he's the kind of bloke. Who only, like a lot of these stars, you hear about it, don't you? Like the ones with the particular riders, maybe he only ever wears the same outfit once. Then it goes to the charity or something. You're probably wondering exactly what's going on with Ncuti Gatwa. You might be out of the loop, Simon. So if that's not a good enough reason to connect back here with your mates, I don't know what is.
Absolutely, it's all good.
He's waiting patiently, and so is she. Yes, Charlotte Shields is back too, Simon. Now she unexpectedly brought the smut on Monday's show, so I'm hoping She's washed her mouth out with soap and water. Hi, Charlotte.
I didn't do it on purpose. I did a very me thing of just phrasing terribly.
Do I dare ask what you did? I watched some of Monday's show.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. We can't repeat it.
How's the rest of your week gone? A little better?
Oh, good. But just to your point with Shooty, I think they'd need, like, you know, like in fashion shows when you had the massive rails, like behind the scenes of all the outfits the models wear.
All on the back wall.
You'd need, like, half the TARDIS would just be his clothes if they did that idea. So I love it, but it just wouldn't be very functional with this Doctor.
No, it's a fair point. Because back in the old days, of course, Charlotte, they used to have, didn't they? They had the wardrobe room, the costume room, whatever they used to call it. And occasionally you would see in it, normally at the beginning of a new regeneration. So, I mean, truth be told, they could just turn that whole that whole console room into the wardrobe, into Shooty Gatwa's wardrobe, and just hang everything from the roundels. Just have coat hangers hanging from every roundel with a different outfit on.
It would look like the most random, like, charity shop. Do you know how like they just tend to put clothes everywhere in charity shops? There's no real design to it.
Be a laugh. Definitely be a laugh. Yes, I don't know why he's looking so serious about. Anybody would think it was all going very, very wrong, wouldn't they? But no, maybe it is. No. But I think we can do more than our bit to write it for a little while, at least, by bringing on never mind this phony, this fake. We've got a real life time traveler waiting in the wings to save the day. I'm very happy to welcome back to the show, Mr. Matt Pott.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. Yes, I would think I'm expecting a few feather boas in there as well now. So in future things, there's going to be like feathers everywhere.
That in multiple colours.
Yes.
Oh. Like backstage at the ABBA.
That's Shooty stuff.
The ABBA light show, whatever it is. Yeah.
Because I used to love like picking out, like, oh, there's the hat. There's the Sixth Doctor's coat. You know, I used to love those little, like they were just little Easter eggs. You know.
Yeah, they were little callbacks.
That scene with Tenant when he was picking his outfit, like as me, that was my first like look. It felt like in the TARDIS beyond the console room.
Yes.
And I just love that you saw him, and then even if I might not have at that point as a kid recognised it, you could tell that there was a reason all those things were in shot. And then afterwards, I was like, "Oh, that's Tom. That's the Doctor."
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it was always something special for me when he was picking out his you know, well, his costume for the rest of the series. You know, yes, he'd have little variants and that, but they wouldn't go too far. And I just loved that. It was just, you know, it was that was my favorite part. Really, it was like it was the same with, you know. That infamous one with Tom Baker.
How I looked at it, Matt, is that you'd spot a couple of outfits that you'd recognise from adventures that you'd seen, but there was ones maybe from adventures that you hadn't seen or couldn't remember, or maybe stuff they'd put in there that had never even been in the show at all. But you could think, oh, I wonder what happened when he wore that. I wonder where he was.
Because this is the David Tennant scene that Charlotte's just talking about, isn't it? So I've just noticed for the first time ever, just sort of towards the middle right-hand side there, the stripy jumper, I've just recognised, I'm pretty sure that's Stephen's jumper from the Celestial Toymaker, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks that way to me.
Yeah, and I've never, ever spotted that before. I love that.
To be fair, that was, to give credit to Russell in that first run, he was very good at sort of sneakily putting little references that didn't like overtake the plot, and they were purely just there for fans to notice.
Yeah, it always bothered me though, Charlotte, that the stripy scarf that we can see there on the left-hand side, that I think David Tennant does try on, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he has like a second.
And I was just always so gutted that because they could so easily have made that a Tom Baker scarf. I don't know why they didn't just put the Tom Baker scarf in there. That always just seemed a bit of a missed opportunity to me. It seems a shame.
My favourite touch, I think, though, Simon, has to be right on the right-hand side, an ironing board with an iron and a shirt half ironed. Because that would be exactly, if that was my TARDIS, it would be just like that. I suspect that this Doctor has somebody in to do the ironing, or has got a little robot that does it for him. I can't see Shooty bothering with anything hot and steamy. Well, not that kind of hot and steamy anyway. But yeah, let us know.
I think his mum does it.
Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, I'm glad you're back, Simon. Not least of all because I wanted to ask you about this. Because last time you were on, we went down a bit of a rabbit hole. And we were talking about this. And we got a lot of blank faces back, if you remember, on the panel. Because I think we were having a sort of senior moment when we mentioned this. We mentioned the Magic Robot game. Do you remember?
Did.
And we tried to describe it to one another very, very poorly, to the point where anybody watching who didn't know what we were talking about would just think that we were both having complete breakdowns.
What were we going on about? Yeah,
rambling episodes. But this,
and we couldn't remember the name of it, could we?
No.
And somebody chipped it in, I think, didn't they? In the chat, did they chip it in at the time?
Yeah, well, they did, but we were sort of wrestling with senility, really, as that went on. But it's Merit Games, the amazing Magic Robot. So this was apparently a very popular game throughout the 1950s, which I think you can tell by one of the girls has got victory rolls in on the box art. But it's just wonderful stuff, and obviously so simple, so wholesome.
Yeah,
and the illustration too, Matt. But this was massively popular to the point where you'd certainly see these in second-hand shops well into the 80s and the 90s, and at car boot sales, flea markets, all that. They must have sold them by the bloody crate load.
Can I ask a question, since I've never heard of this thing before? Yeah. But like the robot wasn't made out of lead, was it? Because a lot of those games in the early 40s, 50s used to have some very toxic metals in them.
Yeah, they did. No, it was made out of plastic. It was plastic.
Okay.
Yeah,
it looks metal in that. That's why I asked.
I definitely always wanted one. And to be clear, actually, Dan's right. It was huge in the 50s. Not that we don't remember it from the 50s. We're not that old. But this was huge, certainly when I was a kid in the 80s. And I always wanted one and never got one. And the idea was that it was a kind of a quiz thing, and you get asked a question, and the robot would always you'd press a button, and the robot would always point to the correct answer. As I recall, that was about it, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, that was the lay of the land, and it was genuinely. I'm not just saying this in a kind of ironic way. This was hours and hours of fun. If you took it on holiday or a variation of, because it did get updated over the years, then it used to keep kids amused, or entire families amused, and it seemed almost like magic. I was mystified by this when I first saw it, but the first version I ever saw of this, I was even more transfixed by it, because it was a variant. It was the same game reboxed as the Dalek Oracle.
Whoa!
Basically the same game, very minimal changes for this. That was put out in 1965 as part of Dalek Mania. And so this was by the Bell Company in England. One of my friends had this. It was dilapidated, in far worse condition than this, because this would have been at least 16 years later. And I was just transfixed by the way it worked, the fact that they were Daleks, but they weren't the Daleks that I'd seen on the telly, and all that kind of thing. And I thought I'd misremembered this, that it was my imagination, particularly when I saw the Magic Robot game. But they were basically the same game, just using a Dalek figure instead of the Magic Robot, Matt. Although he does look as if the paint
assembly required, I think, in that one.
Yeah.
It's not the most anatomically correct Dalek, if we're honest.
No, it looks a little bit suspect. That does.
It's got a very large top half and a very, very small bottom section.
Yeah, and also the plunger and whatever the other. I never know what the other thing's called. Like, they're very, very close together.
Very. It's a gun stick. Terrence Dicks famously always called it a gun stick in the Target book. So a gun stick is exactly what it is.
Who am I to argue with Terrence? So
absolutely. I
would imagine there'll be people in the live chat who say they've still got this and it's in perfect condition. Darren Bradley, are you in? I bet he's got 5.
Peter Harrington has got one. He's got a magic robot. Peter Harrington has said he's got a magic robot. We want to know if anybody's got a Dalek Oracle, because I completely forgotten about this. You're right, Dan. I'd completely forgotten about this.
Have you ever seen one in working order, Simon?
No, I've never seen. I don't know where you've had these photos from. Those are incredible photos. The condition of that set is amazing. I've never seen one.
I always used to think the gun was a whisk. I don't know why.
Yes, this photo in particular comes from TARDIS Treasures on Facebook. Lots of pictures, not just of this Doctor Who collectible, but lots and lots of them, beautifully taken photographs like this. And yeah, people in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X are indeed fascinated by this, whether they remember it from back in the day or not. That's when they're not dancing to our theme tune, the best theme tune in the whole of Doctor Who, Doctor Who podcasting, of course, and delighting in the sight of that console room with its canine. So yeah, if you've got one, let us know. I expect, like I say, Darren Bradley's almost certainly got it. Hail to the Queen. We've got Hail to the Queen from Matthew Pounder, and all those kind of comments are coming in. Thank you, everybody. We're going to get stuck into a couple of topics. There's lots of nostalgia on the way, as well as a few newsy bits. He looks like he's promoting the new Wimbledon tennis outfit collection in that new picture of Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. Yeah, he is apparently going to wear this on screen, so look out for that. A Thursday fun, says Lord Thoth. Yeah, we try. And lots more of the regulars are in as well, like Fly Highland, Richard Brooks, Peter's here as well. Yeah. And Fly Highland asks, does anyone get disappointed when a Doctor doesn't wear the predecessor's outfit the majority of their first episode? I don't know why, but I like that. It's because it kids us into thinking that the other one, the one that we're still mourning, is kind of still there.
I think people were disappointed because David Tennant didn't regenerate using Whittaker's.
You could be right. Doctor Who fans are a funny bunch.
I think the main thought was, go on, we dare you, wasn't it? Like, go on, put him in that outfit.
Even they couldn't do
it. Yeah, Russell T. Davies made a statement about that on Instagram, which was very carefully worded, but it was along the lines of, as if we'd put a professional actor in that stupid costume.
That's saying it nicely.
Him to even say that was stupid. Come on.
David Milling is double banking us with the snooker. The snooker's still on, everybody. I forget how long those things roll on for.
Is it?
But yeah. But we are talking all things Doctor Who. We're catching Simon up on everything that's been going on over the last few days. Not least of all because it's kind of lining up with some things that we were talking about a little while ago. Obviously, there's a new episode on the way at the weekend. This is the 4th of the season, Simon. It's the halfway mark with Lucky Day. We're going to take a look at that in a little while because I know that you'll be chomping at the bit to hear about everything that you're going to miss.
Chomping, I am chomping.
But yeah, the series is working its way to a conclusion, which is bound to have plenty of as many fans smiling as it is not. It's a pity that we live in these times, but that is very much where we are.
That photo, Dan, that is just an absolute crazy caption photo. It's the kind of photo that you'd see on a birthday card with a really clever caption underneath it of what he's thinking and what she's thinking.
Yeah, who's farted? It's that kind of picture.
It is, isn't it? It's just such a posed photo that is.
Yeah. I'm going to be good this week, but yes, I do like this one. It's I like all the blue and things like that. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's all a little bit too pressed and perfect, which I think is the problem I've got. It's the problem I've got with a lot of the imagery that comes out of the show nowadays. It really is amazingly a lot of the conversation already. Even though we're just about to hit the halfway mark, Matt, we are now at the point where people are talking more about the finale. They are about the episodes we're going to get before. That can't be desirable. That's not a place you would think they'd want us to be in as a fan base, or even just as an audience. But nevertheless, that is where we are now. Russell T Davies finales, any Doctor Who finales, are kind of notorious for pleasing, not really delivering, and pleasing some better than others. So keep our fingers crossed that it's at least intelligible in some way. But the news has broken this week that for a second year running, in selected cinemas, they're going to get the premiere of that episode, along with the first part, which will have been on the previous Saturday. And there's these fabulous new posters. It's the same artwork, new posters though. The 2-episode finale, Wish World and The Reality War. You'll be able to watch them in cinemas on Saturday, the 31st of May, through Cinema Live in association with BBC Studios. Ned Blurb says, experience time and space on the big screen with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Veronica Satu as Belinda Chandra, and Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday. Celebrate the epic 2-part end of the season finale at Wishworld and the Reality War at your local cinema on Saturday, the 31st of May. Both of these are written by Russell T Davies, of course, and directed by Alex Sanjeev Pillai. So that's a name I don't recognize from earlier episodes, but maybe they've done some more that we're yet to see. I don't know. So we've got this new variation there on the artwork and all the details that come along with it. They're all the blurb. The screening starts at 8, enabling the I suppose there'll be a slight interval, and then the final episode will kick off at 7 there, the Reality War. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look that different, that special, because they did this last year, didn't they? If you remember the 2-part season finale, The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death, they both screened, in cinemas too. But the difference there was that they were on the Friday with that very final episode timed to start at midnight, which was when they were dropping on Disney Plus and on the iPlayer. So the people in cinemas got to see it first, along with the people who were streaming it. That's not happening. That's not happening this time, which has sort of raised eyebrows, got double takes, second looks, whatever you want to call it. It does suggest that something could be different this time. What's going on? Could be some comings and maybe some goings. So obviously this does point towards there being something that they want to keep under wraps, Simon. Otherwise they would follow the same pattern, I would say, of having it in cinemas maybe on the morning. Or do you think it's just not feasible to have people in cinemas on Saturday morning at 8 o'clock?
No, I don't think. I don't think it's point. Yeah, you're not going to get a cinema to open up there. So I'm confused. Are you saying that it is going to be screened on iPlayer before it's screened on the cinemas?
It's all screening simultaneously. So
I see.
The cinema screenings are timed to match exactly the BBC One airing, and they're holding back on the premiere of the streaming of it also until the same time. So nobody can see this ahead of anyone else across the 3 places you can get it.
So that means on Disney Plus, is it the same? Is it again screened exactly UK time, our UK time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Oh, so that's that. Oh, okay.
So it's basically their best way to stop anything on the internet getting out before they want it to. Like, this is how you do it. Yeah. You stop it being able to be viewed on iPlayer beforehand, you get the cinema timings matching, and you match America streaming times to UK. That's basically what this all is.
So I mean, it still begs the question as to whether it was the correct thing to do to put those episodes on iPlayer at 8 o'clock in the morning anyway. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the viewing figures have been so poor for this season. I think it was a mistake, because I think it takes away what you're talking about, Charlotte, which is creating event television. You can't create event television if you've dropped episodes at 8 o'clock in the morning, because the event has passed by then. And so I think it was a mistake, and I think it possibly has made a dent in the viewing figures, and I think it probably did last year as well. So it's an odd decision to have made in the first place, but it's actually even odder to unmake it now and try and sort of do, in effect, what they should have done first time round. It's just messy. It's just a messy way of doing things. It certainly isn't the way to create event television, but maybe they're not.
Because even though the iPlayer figures, it's not a small amount of people who are watching this on catch up. It is almost doubling its figure on the iPlayer, but only after broadcast. Very few. So yeah, after it's been on BBC One, there are lots of people, almost as many people. They're quite right. The way we consume this stuff has changed. So almost as many people are watching it on catch-up, but very few people. I'd even describe it as a negligible amount of watching it at 8 o'clock in the morning. The figures on that they're barely even worth mentioning, so few people do it. And as you quite rightly say, Simon, it is sort of compromising the brand and the status of the show a little. I think they're really going to need to look at that again with whoever. I mean, they might not even. They're still hunting for a new global streaming home since Disney pulled out, as we exclusively told you all the way back in February. But theoretically, wherever they go with a global streaming sort of model, they could be faced with the same problem. I think the BBC need to be hard on that and need to put the domestic audience first and consider the event status of the show, just as you were saying.
It removes the urgency by dropping episodes at 8 o'clock in the morning. It just removes the urgency to go and see them. So immediately you're just saying, well, the episode's out there. Go and have a look at it when you feel like watching it. You know, no urgency, no rush to do it. Just have a look when you get a chance, when you're eating your tea. And it just seems a really odd thing to do. But of course, this is part of the BBC has been pushing iPlayer for so long now that, you know, all episodes now streaming on iPlayer. They've removed across the board as a policy decision the urgency to watch BBC television when it's broadcast. They've removed that. They've taken it away. They've removed the urgency. And so you lose any chance at all of having event television. And that was a conscious decision.
Those sort of things were designed as catch-ups.
Yeah.
So
but it's no longer catch-up.
Now you're getting they're exclusives, and they're trying to push a streaming service rather than a thing.
You can't have both.
No,
you can't have
it won't work. It doesn't work that way.
Because if it's not catch up, if it's just episodes that you're just dropping out, and people think, oh well, yeah, I'll watch it whenever, and then they forget to watch it, and then maybe they'll watch it in a month's time when they're, and so it just it takes away all that, and I think it's a mistake personally. I think what they should have done, as you say, as you're talking about there, Matt, is they should have kept them as a catch up service. They should have kept it as catch up rather than trying to just constantly push this, that all episodes now streaming on iPlayer. Okay, so I'll watch them when I get a chance to. Then I'm not going to worry about it.
Here in Australia, they actually, because pirating was so prolific for Doctor Who, they were losing a lot of ratings, the ABC. So they ended up actually. That's why it never really fazed me that much that they were putting the episodes online at the same time as when the shows were thing. So when you guys were getting it, especially in the David Tennant era and the Matt Smith era, so when you guys were getting it airing live on the BBC, we would get it on streaming and it would be shown later that night, you know? So it never really fazed me. So when this all happened to you guys, it was a little bit like, oh, well, we've been doing this for years, you know?
Well, like I said, my feeling is I think they're hiding Regeneration. Like, that was my prediction when we did our predictions. I thought that they were going to do a surprise one because, like you saw, I think right now where the show is, it would be enough of a shock to at least get some headlines, to at least get some traction again. Even if it's only for a couple of days, at least people are talking. Not about how bad the new figures are, for example, like the papers are full of at the moment, or what's Russell mouthed off about, or all the bad news stories this show seems to always get. And I think they do it to themselves. But if you were to regenerate him without telling anybody, have it all at once, like America's going to see it if this happens, the cinema people are going to see it, the UK viewers are going to see it all at the same time, it would be a bit of a, they've not done that before. They've never managed to hide a regeneration before. So I just think...
Well, Simon, you probably remember this. Just to Charlotte, saying, Charlotte, it has been a long-term ambition of Russell T Davies to pull off a surprise regeneration.
Well, yeah, I mean, the question is whether they will, if it is a regeneration, and I think there's, given all the indications that we're being told that Ncuti Gatwa has gone, and that seems to be almost sort of accepted knowledge now. It seems to, it's in mainstream media. It's being talked about as though we all kind of know it and accept it.
Yeah.
And the flack that we copped on this show in February when we broke it exclusively from our sources, the information that we've been told, our name was kind of we were dragged through the mud a little bit for a while.
A few of us were dragged through the mud for even suggesting Ncuti might be gone.
but everything else is catching up with us. The mainstream and the rest of sort of independent media does seem to be catching up with what we were telling you guys all the way back in February. Everything is coming to Place. Ncuti Gatwa has gone. He bought himself out of that contract allegedly, and yeah, this does seem to be very much on the cards. I think all indications are pointing towards something they're trying to keep under wraps. But the only thing, and you think, well, yeah, otherwise they'd just put it on. They'd put it on at another time. But I don't know.
I would like to think that if and as I say, it seems very, very likely that it'll be a Regeneration. We've all talked about this before and said, okay, what they'll probably do is, and we talked about it with Jodie Whittaker as well at one point, that they might just regenerate, and we won't see who they're regenerating into. The regeneration will start, and we get the end credits. Now, if they're very, very clever, the only way I think to save Doctor Who at this point would be to have a regeneration, but to reveal the new Doctor as an absolute shock at the end. And my God, it had better be a damned fine actor in that role that they put in.
Who said Hugh Grant?
And that would finally, that would Hugh Grant, absolutely. That would finally actually get some headlines, and finally people would start talking about Doctor Who again, and it would generate some interest for it to come back. And if they're very, very clever, they will do that, even if they've just signed a contract with, for example, Hugh Grant, that they in effect are prepared to write off if the Hugh Grant season never happened. Okay, we paid for a full season of Hugh Grant, and he only appeared in one scene at the end of a Ncuti Gatwa episode, but it might actually be worth the gamble, because the interest that it would generate might actually give the show the kick that means a streamer will be interested in picking it up. The public would be interested in starting.
Look at the interest this show can generate when everything aligns, when the media is behind it, where that it does. Because the main problem that Doctor Who has at the moment isn't actually the lead man. It's not even Russell T Davies. It's the fact that it's completely irrelevant. That's the biggest problem of them all. However, we've got there, and it's a combination. Obviously, it's the influence of one of those guys in particular that's kind of got us there or kept us there, because it's Chris Chibnall that took the show to irrelevance, and his terrible lead actress. So he did that, but Russell has kept it there. It needn't have been like this. Yes. And Ncuti Gatwa has allegedly, so it's just for people who weren't around when we covered this. So our information told us it's alleged that Ncuti Gatwa departed the role it was two-pronged. So the issues were scheduling and expectations. The expectations that were on him in particular, as regards his availability and what he was meant to do in the role. So so this was we covered this on the 200th edition, and all the rumors that are out there. There's more things surfacing on Reddit right now, which for the bulk of them, they are just repeating again what we told you in February. So go back through the playlist and check out episode 200 and 201, and you'll get our what we said then, because it very much still stands now. Regeneration has been a bit of a dirty word in the last couple of years, because they couldn't even resist messing with that. But I think the purity of the cultural moment, just as I think we've all said, when they get it right, it gets everybody talking, Charlotte, doesn't it? And they've managed to, even things that we in the fan base saw coming, such as the one in the close of series 4 with David Tennant, when he got the excess energy which he blew into the jar.
Yeah, we got
even that got people talking. People love this stuff.
I think because of how much Doctor Who means to Brits and this country, whenever a new face appears, everybody at least has a look, even if they might not watch it afterwards. It naturally creates this, this new actor's come in now. And people like to sort of speculate, what they're going to play it like, what does the costume? It creates really good conversation naturally. Yeah. And I just think this brand needs just to be the conversations need to concentrate back on it as a TV show again. And
it needs a talking point.
and what the Doctor is again, and what could happen as this character gets another incarnation possibly coming. But a bit of me thinks, I've got a sneaky feeling, and this is just my gut, this is purely my gut, I don't think we'll see who's going to come afterwards. I think they're going to fade to black if this happens.
I think they will as well, and that's where I think it'll be a mistake, because I think that will just leave it too much in a limbo that actually people don't care enough about the show to care whether he's regenerated and we're going to have to tune in next time to find out who it is. People don't care enough at the moment to be bothered about that.
Well,
so I think
keep in mind that they didn't intend on this happening. This was a massive change of plans. Ncuti Gatwa believed it was his initial contract had a lot further to run, and Ncuti Gatwa believed. Not that I'm aware.
Okay.
Bad Wolf had it for 5 years, but I've got some news on that as well. But Ncuti believed that he would be filming a third season this year, which he was available for, but of course the rails came off.
He talked about it, didn't he, Dan?
He talked about it on the Graham Norton show in material that never made its way to the TV.
Yeah.
But when the schedule for Doctor Who went awry, obviously with Disney pulling out and various other things, then it left him a gap. He's a professional actor. He's got to fill that gap with something. You can't expect him to sit around waiting for a show that he was supposed to be making that isn't. So it would have affected everything that he'd got sort of building up afterwards. So it's a completely cold business decision from the outside. I don't blame him at all, but it's obviously had that kind of knock-on effect, and it would mean that any filming of a regeneration sequence, which would most likely have been the material that was shot in February, would be in itself a compromise, and that this is largely, if not thrown together, it would have been, because they filmed that in February. It's not going to get broadcast until the end of May. It's plenty of time to make sure that it all flows and it edits and it feels right. But it will have been a compromise that will have been put together, and with that extra runtime as well, because it's believed that that finale, the reality war, it runs to at least an hour. I've heard as long as an hour and 10 minutes, so it's an extended runtime even compared to Empire of Death. So it would seem to suggest that something special could happen.
I think, Simon, I agree. If they do the fade to black and then they don't say anything, like in a short time afterwards, they just let it sort of end on that note, I do think that will hurt the show. I think they'll need to keep some sort of news, some sort of still letting us know a little bit what's going on, because otherwise it's just going to look like the show's gone and it's not coming back, and they can't have that sort of.
No, because interestingly, this happened way back in '86 with Trial of a Time Lord, when Eric Saywood famously wanted to finish not on a regeneration that started that we didn't see, but in effect it was that kind of question mark of, is the Doctor alive, dead? It's the same kind of thing. And John Nathan Turner vehemently opposed it and said, no, it'll be a disastrous thing if we do that, simply because the public won't know where they stand with it. Is it coming? Is it going? Is it gone? And the BBC will have an opportunity to sort of think, oh, you know what? Let's just quietly let it go now, because we've left it on a question mark that we can bring it back at some point if we want to. So John Nathan Turner, quite rightly, I think, vetoed that and said, no, it's too easy a get out. And that's why I think, Charlotte, it would be, just like that. I think it would be a mistake.
Well, the problem is the show's not got eyes at the moment anyway.
No.
And we talked about this on the Monday show. Like, we don't want this show, however it sort of fades for a little bit, because I do think a break of some description's coming.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't want it to fade away, nobody notice.
And that's what will happen.
They need to, well, like I said, if they use these sort of the shock and the moment of, oh, they've done a regeneration, and they didn't announce it and it's a surprise, and then they keep just the brand alive enough and they talk enough and they keep now and again some updates, then
I think people's patience are wearing thin, especially after the last, where we had to wait from Whittaker to Tenant, when Tenant was regenerated. We had to wait a full year for that. And, you know, I think a lot of people were, you know, excited at that prospect, but I think that's it. They can't do it again. You know?
I genuinely...
And Matt, it was the latest of what must have been, Simon, 4, maybe even 5 equivalent of gap years between various runs. That wears the public down. That wears the general audience down. Even the most enthusiastic, even the biggest of appetites for the show, Charlotte, they forget about it over time.
Oh yeah, that's why I said the good thing is now with the overall the brand has got different aspects that keep it alive, even if the main show is struggling blatantly. You've got the collection box sets, you've got classic. They seem to always be keeping classic in the sort of the eye now, which is good. You've got other things that can keep. That's my point. The brand can't be looking like it's going to complete sleep.
And you've got to remember the waiting period for this. Whereas from when it regenerated back into Tenant, they were already filming. This time around, there's probably not going to be any filming for at least we're looking at a 2 or 3 year wait, and that's if they green light it straight away. You know, which I doubt very much. They may even wait for this. Apparently, there's a spin-off coming out. They may even wait, you know, and use that as a gap year or whatever and move it forward.
But I think by then I think by then, Matt, it'll be dead in the water because I think what we're talking about is if it fades to black, that's then assuming however much, as you say, Charlotte, they then keep the pressure on and they're sort of teasing us and that assumes that people actually give a damn. Yeah. And the problem is nobody does give a damn. So it will almost certainly just fade away. You can only play that card if you could have played that card, for example, during the Tenant years. You could have had Tenant begin a regeneration and we didn't see Matt Smith appear. We didn't know who the new Doctor was going to be. And the atmosphere around that would have been electric, because everybody would have been desperate to know who the new Doctor is. But there's just so much apathy and antipathy around the show now. Nobody cares who the new Doctor is going to be. So it'll just kill it stone dead. If they do that, I call it now, the show will not come back for a long time.
Some care. I mean, there are lots of people who are waiting. Well, some people are waiting with sort of bated breath. These two, for example, they're very keen. But generally speaking, the show keeps coming back in fits and starts, and it's simply not enough for people to set aside time to anticipate its return and to talk it up after the fact. Because as soon as they've got used to the fact that it's on, it's off again. People in the live chat are hardly cut up by the thought of a curtailed Shootigatua era. Domgo says the Star Beast was the last chance saloon and the BBC blew it forever. Don't agree with that at all. Sorry, Domgo, I politely disagree. The last chance, as I've said this several times, and I maintain their last chance was Joy to the World, that Christmas special, Christmas Just Gone. That was their very last chance with this. And sure enough, I think I'm being proven correct. It doesn't matter how good any of the episodes are that have followed it. And The Well on Saturday was arguably bloody good stuff. And the rest of them could be of that quality, and it won't matter because no one's watching. Just as you said, Simon, the British public, the audience, and the fan base tragically have fallen out of love with the show.
And you know,
it doesn't matter how big the smiles are. It doesn't matter how fancy the costumes are. It doesn't even matter that this woman is drop dead gorgeous. It doesn't matter.
Matter of opinion there, Dan.
None of that matters. None of that matters if it doesn't feel right and if it doesn't feel relevant and if it isn't loved.
But you know what I find the biggest tragedy about all of this is that certainly the British public, of course not across the rest of the world, but the British public are desperate to love Doctor Who again. I do believe that. Not just fans. I'm not talking about fans now. I'm talking about the British general viewing public. They are absolutely desperate to love this show. The British public wants to love Doctor Who. It does love Doctor Who, and it wants to watch it again. And that's what I just find so tragic about this. And I'm just like, how could they have misfired so catastrophically? Firstly with the Chibnall Whittaker years, and now with this, and even with the Tenant interlude.
I think it's because they've got the Three Stooges as producers, you know.
I think the wrong people are in charge, Matt. Yes, I think that's
you have to wonder, when we're only technically 2.5 weeks into a season and already all attention has switched to the season finale. I think this was really quite unwise. I know they want people to buy these tickets long in advance, and apparently they are selling quite well. Obviously, they will have their limited screenings in limited places at limited times at a specific time in this case, but apparently they are selling. They are expected to sell quite well. There's a lot of interest, I should say. I don't know what. Maybe planting stories about the proposed content of it, about the rumored content of it, could also generate more interest as well. Trek Matt is in the live chat. Just go back to basics. Yeah, believe me, Matt, we've covered this. Good to have you with us, mate. Even if you are from Star Trek, they need to stop pushing a message and go back to basics. Do decent sci-fi. We've been walking that path for years on this show. Believe me, we agree. David Mullen says that people do want actual Doctor Who back. The reserve of affection with the British public for this brand, for this show, is still there, but they don't recognise a great deal of it in the version of it that's on screen every now and again now on BBC One. And more to the point, they don't know who the hell that guy is, because he hasn't endeared himself at all, not just to us, but to the nation. They couldn't pick that bloke out of a buskew, even in those stupid costumes, Matt.
Yeah. I've been thinking in the last week or two, and I was done with the show, because it was like it's like an open wound. You just got to have to keep looking at it all the time. And I just felt that, you know, if this is the last time that this show is going to be on, then, you know, maybe I should watch the last couple of episodes just so that I can feel like, you know, I tried to support it, and it's just, it just didn't want to support me, you know. And
well, also, Matt, there's something connective and shared about an experience like that, when a show that brought us all together, everybody here on the panel, and you guys as well, you watching, it brought us all together, and so we kind of be there together and all connected as the thing potentially closes. I think that's part of it too.
But part of the major problem here is that the people in charge and the lead actor has made very clear that we're not welcome here.
That's what I'm saying, Simon.
Yeah,
I know
that's exactly what you're saying, Matt, and that's how I feel, and that's why I've stopped watching it, because they've made it very clear that it's not my show. They don't want me. They've made very clear they don't want me, and they're not bothered that I've abandoned that I don't feel a connection with it anymore.
I always missed out on that finale with Sylvester McCoy's era. I didn't know. I was always waiting. I never got the news that it was finished. So I felt like I've always wanted to hold his hand when the end was near, you know, and I missed that opportunity last time. And it's like, well, I kind of want to be there for the ultimate end, you know, for however long, if forever, you know. And so, you know, it means a lot to me, this show, and, you know, it's just the fact that it's really let me down.
It's more than just a TV show, isn't it? We've said several times, the ritualistic quality of it, the connective ability.
It is, but unfortunately, it no longer means anything to me at all. That doesn't mean Doctor Who means nothing to me, far from it. I love what I consider to be true Doctor Who more and more every day. But Doctor Who as a brand, no, it means absolutely nothing to me anymore. It doesn't even upset me that I'm not watching these episodes. I'm not worried. I don't feel I'm missing out. I get no FOMO whatsoever. No, it's the brand as a current event is dead to me. And it doesn't worry me. I'm absolutely cool with that. I'm very, very happy with the Doctor Who that I love. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I think a little bit of why people are already focusing on the finale is because last year we had The Legend of Ruby Sunday, which set up so much, promised so much, and then that second half, even the fans that usually praise everything to do with this show were even saying, "What on earth was that?" Like he literally turned around and did the equivalent of a slap in the face.
Yeah.
What the reveal of Ruby's mum and Sue and all the stuff in that final episode. So I think people, rightfully so, are thinking, are you going to do that again? Are you going to set everything up and then fumble it incredibly badly? Because he's now done that last series. So
the ticket about to go on sale for the 2-part finale. Let us know if you're in for this. If we've convinced you to go and book up there at Cinema Live on their website for one hell of a journey, as is promised, for the double bill of Wish World and the Reality War. We'll be here talking about each episode in the run up and with our instant reaction shows afterwards as well, whenever the afterwards will be, because obviously we're not really sure how long it's going to last, so we're not quite sure what we can say and when we can say it. But if you hang around here at Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube and Facebook, you'll get our first words as soon as we can get them to you, and everything else in between. There's the podcast across all major podcatchers, as always, the Type 40 Doctor Who podcast there, and at our home feed at type40.podbean.com. More live streams as well, such as our coverage last week of the run-up to the Well. So yeah, we had word, I think most of the fandom knew that it was going to be a sequel to Midnight, so we looked at Midnight last week, had a nice long review of that, as well as a bit of a catch-up with all manner of other things. And then there was our instant reaction review to the Well as well, to see if, well, any of the things that we thought it may say or places it may go actually prove to be correct or not. So you can go and check out both of those shows there, do a bit of time traveling, shuffle back and see what we've got to say about that latest episode 3 there of this season. This is Type 40 Live, and there's a lot more to talk about, so stick around there and we'll get some more of your comments up on screen. We're not quite done with all new Doctor Who yet, so stay tuned.
Perfect. Just the person I need to see. Firstly, loving the outfit, by the way. Really suits your hair. Secondly, the universe is falling apart. I don't have much time today. I need to shoot off. I need to do something. But by all means, this is imperative. Watch Type 40. Type 40 podcast is where you need to be. Siggy there!
So how do you follow that? And her, what a fantastic performance from Rose Ayling-Ellis there at the weekend in the Well. Doctor Who's hit that halfway point in this second season now as it moves through. Yeah, we talked about the conclusion. We're going to just shuffle back a little to this week. Same drill as usual for this one. So we get the early morning drop on iPlayer and on Disney Plus there, 8 a.m. UK time for that. The bulk of the viewers do still wait, though, until the BBC One screening, which is at 7:10 this week. So they keep moving it around as well, which I don't think that helps either. But we've been telling them that for years and years and years. So it's the 4th episode coming this weekend. This is Lucky Day. It stars predominantly Millie Gibson, so it seems there's some new creature involved as well, and a pinboard full of imagery from previous episodes. There's the Slovene ship hitting Big Ben. There's Henrik's blowing up. All of them there are on the pinboard. So yeah, let's take a look and what we can expect in that episode coming this weekend. It's, as always, these little trailers they put out. I don't know why they bother. They're so bloody short. But this is a snippet of what to expect, or if you're Simon and Matt, what you're going to be happy. What you're going to be happy to be missing out on. Check it out.
I'm not happy to be missing out on it. It pains me not.
It's Ruby Sydney. You ever had a boyfriend? My name is Ruby Sydney. You ever had a boyfriend for ages?
The pheromones marks you as future prey.
No, but after you. Out there.
Pretty, like you and the doctor.
What the hell is going on?
Short and sweet. That one, short and sweet. This is Lucky
Was
Day
that
by
it?
Pete McTighe, Saturday, the 3rd of May, 2025. Yeah, we're just getting these 30-second bite-sized trailers now, and little sort of real things that turn up on some social media platforms, Matt. It's all gone quite sparse in that respect as well. Where are the minute-long trailers and the sort of purpose-made minisodes and all that kind of thing? It's all gone.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can't, I mean, there's absolutely not a second of that made me think, go on, then I'm going to give this one a go. Literally, not even half a second.
Yeah.
If you can't sell something in 30 seconds, you haven't got to come up with much good footage to fill 30 seconds. If that's the best you can come up with, it's clearly not anything that I'm going to be disappointed to miss.
And to be honest, even by the standards of these 30 seconds, that was so scatterbrain and everywhere. Like,
yeah, it's
there
all
was
over
a
the shop,
through
Charlotte.
line.
It's
Quite
like-
unexplained, wasn't it?
What is it about? Is it about a boyfriend, a girlfriend? Is it about monsters? What is it about? I don't know. I don't care.
Who knows? We can't blame Russell T. Well, I suppose we can still blame Russell T. Davies.
Yeah, we can.
But he's not the writer of this. He's not even a co-writer. This one is the work of Pete McTighe, a name we're familiar with from various things, the Blu-ray range. He's the guy who puts all those fabulous mini episodes together, isn't he? And he's responsible for 2 previous episodes of the Jodie Whittaker era. So this episode was filmed. Can you believe it? This episode that we're about to get now was filmed all the way back in November of 2023 when we were watching those 60th anniversary specials, Matt. They were making this. Don't think Matt can hear me, but
No, I don't.
So Pete's talking it up on social media. He's trying to bring a bit of hype that the trailer didn't. Next Saturday, a sleepy English village unit, Ruby Sunday, and a terrifying new monster. So I think what he's hoping here is to actually tap in to some of those sort of classic series vibes. It does look, it looks a bit like Devil's End or one of those places from a Pertwee story. And you could say that they did the 73 yards last year, Charlotte. That did have, certainly in the first half, have a kind of intimacy and a kind of old world charm about it. There was the kind of the rambling pub, the suspicious locals, and the distressed companion. That was quite old school. Do you think we could get a mix-up of the same kind of elements with this?
Well, that image is very, like, yeah, you do get old Pertwee with that. And the tiny things I've seen of the monster in other material, it looks like it's what it could be, like almost like a fae creature, like old folk, old stories, that sort of vibe, like 73 yards. And the most effective stuff of that episode was the countryside element, like you said, of Ruby being the other, of being the non-local, and like we've all gone into a pub when we're not local and been like, I'm going to go out now because everybody's staring at me. Like, it tapped into that quite well. And Pete is quite a reliable writer at this point. He was getting more and more sort of better with those Blu-ray trailers.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say much about his Jodie stuff, if I'm being honest, because the Praxius thing I didn't really feel anything.
I nodded off watching that.
Yeah, that was like complete and utter, okay, something to do with plastic. Like, that's all I can remember. And Kaplan, I can't say, Kaplan, that one.
Kablam.
There we go. It had a funky concept, but like a lot of that era, just the execution let it down. The concept wasn't half bad.
Yeah.
So I think there's a real good chance for this one. That's how I would phrase it. There's a good chance of this being able to pull it off. But
I still believe in this writer, but largely, I think I've probably said before, largely based on the strength of his work outside of Doctor Who. I talk up Wentworth all the time, Matt. I don't know if you watched that show, but I found it all riveting. I think it was on for about 7 seasons, and he was the creator, the lead writer of that. I think he might have even wrote the first season entirely himself. It was what Doctor Who used to be: unmissable, event quality drama with incredibly well realized characters. And he's clearly as fond of Doctor Who as he was of the original Prisoner Cell Block 8 show, which he remade as Wentworth. So I'd like to think that if he was, as is, I still believe the plan, or certainly was the plan, for him to inherit the showrunner mantle, I think he'd probably make a really good job of it. I think he understands Doctor Who, and you can detect that particularly in Kablam. I think Kablam in any other era would have been given a lot more attention to make it a bit more fit for purpose, but it was Chris Chibnall that was asleep at the wheel, putting a lot of first drafts through. I think there was nothing wrong with that a bit of TLC couldn't have fixed. And you're quite right. I think the stuff that he's done on the Blu-ray, Charlotte, really does just speak not just of a love of Doctor Who, but a sort of a grasp of, think of the budget of those things. Doctor Who doesn't need a big budget. And I think in imaginations like Pete McTighe, I think he knows that. I think he can tap into old school Doctor Who thrills. And so I'm sort of hoping that this follows the strength of last week and delivers something again that will be memorable for the right reasons.
Yeah, I think the only worry I have a little bit, and to be honest, that trailer sort of really made me have a tiny bit
Simon's
more
right.
Well, no, it's like this idea of, so okay, you've got Ruby and the boyfriend, he's clearly trying to get the whole chills countryside, like rural angle, but then you have Shooty, but this is a Dr. Light episode, so I don't know if there's a possibility here, I won't know till I watch it, that there might be too many ideas sort of battling for attention.
It's a big cast list as well. Ruby's family are back in this, as well as Ruby herself, obviously still played by Millie Gibson.
It's difficult again, though, isn't it? Because that assumes you actually give a damn about Ruby and her family, and I certainly don't. Does the general public? Has the general public got the foggiest who Ruby Sunday is? None whatsoever. So
they'll remember her, but they will have likely forgotten about her family already because the show just simply wasn't on for long enough.
No, I'm not even sure that they'll remember her necessarily, because I mean, let's be honest, not many people watched Ncuti Gatwa's first season, and those that did, the majority of the general public, I doubt, would be able to name who the companion was throughout that first season. So they might have a vague idea when Ruby Sunday turns up. But nobody's going to say, "Oh, how fabulous to see Ruby Sunday back!" In the way
she was named after a street sign.
Yeah, in the way that they might say with Rose Tyler. Everybody would be very excited to see Rose Tyler come back. But Ruby Sunday's not quite in the same league as Rose Tyler. So and certainly her family. I mean, nobody really cares, do they? This is the problem with the show now. They're sort of riding on this incorrect belief that people actually give a damn. They don't.
I agree with that. Maybe people won't have taken to the character, but I think people took to Millie. I think she was sort of seen as one of the brighter parts of that series. So maybe they'll sort of be interested at her. Like, maybe this actress is coming back.
I have to say, it looks a cool monster on the left, if that is the monster.
Looks brilliant.
That looks a cool monster. If that is it, I like the look of the monster.
I think that they're quite proud of that monster, because isn't that the one that they've been showing off, like, out of the whole...
I don't know. Series. I haven't seen anything of that, Matt, apart from that one shot that's up on screen at the moment.
Yeah, there was a press release, so it's not leaked. There you go. So it's not press.
No, sorry, just suddenly doesn't look quite as good anymore.
Very alien-esque, isn't it?
To me. It looked really creepy, and
there's
now it
clips of
like
it.
a rumpy rubber.
There's clips of it sort of stalking people over rooftops and trees and things like that, and it does look very effective.
In the dark.
The The current unit team are back as well, including Ruth Madeley as Shirley Bingham, the
good.
scientific advisor.
Yeah.
That's that weird colonel guy who always seems like he's sort of touching himself through his pockets. He's always got a fixed grin, hasn't he? And Kate Stewart as well, who still, even though she was better in the last season, never seems 100% awake. Simon,
Dan, just stop it. You're not convincing me to watch this.
You're actually turning me off any future episodes, Dan.
If I can't convince you, maybe Russell T Davies can in his preview with the Radio Times. This is how he amped us up here a couple of weeks ago for Lucky Day. Back on Earth, Ruby Sunday is recovering from life with the Doctor and finds a new boyfriend. But when Conrad tries to live up to Ruby's ideals to become as brave as the Doctor, a world of danger opens up. For a long time, he says this episode was called Meanwhile. I think that's a great name. It's a better title than Lucky Day, because we've all wondered what happens to the Doctor's companions back on Earth once the adventuring stops. And about all, a proportion of us have, Russell, not all. And we've seen the wonderful Sarah Jane Smith investigate alien goings-on from her attic, and lots of old companions are now being conscripted into unit because they've got so much experience of events beyond this world.
Yes, so much experience. Rose. Yeah, she's got tentative experience.
But he does caution Ruby is still so young, barely 20, still exploring her family and still working out what she wants to do in life. So it was a great delight to hand this episode over to Pete McTighe, such a great writer of The Human Heart. This is very low on hyperbole for him to explore what happens once the Doctor is gone. All of this is absolutely fine. And I still think, I agree with him, I think it's still fertile, largely untapped ground, particularly for a one-off like this. But I must say, Simon, she was not traveling with the Doctor for very long. So this all hinges on a character that we never really got to know that well in the first place. And you throw in Monsters Unit, Kate, Shirley, gunk, helicopters, a creepy English village, and you're talking, and a glimpse of a long-lost Doctor and Ruby story too. So there's a bit of mystery in there. This doesn't sound awful. I think this sounds sort of okay, but that's a lot to put into 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's the only worry here. Like, bits of this sound, I agree, quite, like, could be interesting, could be good. And the running issue right now with this current run is they struggle to fully develop their ideas. And it just seems like they've chucked a load of stuff into this.
They've chucked a load of stuff into this. And characters like Shirley, and again, I've got nothing against this character, or in all truth, any of those recurring cast members that they're trying to get to gel. But the general public, they don't even know, like you said, they don't really know who Ruby is. So with the best one in the world, they're really going to care about any of those.
Well, that
people.
one's in the one in the wheelchair is in the spin-off, isn't she?
That's
as well?
right.
So
Yeah.
maybe
They
they'll expand her character in that one.
That'll
make you come back.
And that's obviously that's the war between the land and the sea. Also co-written by Pete McTighe with Russell T Davies. So maybe they could start sowing the seeds for the dynamic, or pushing on the dynamic a little with that. I suppose we'll find out when we watch the thing. Yeah, Pete McTighe, and still a name to watch. I feel when the future of Doctor Who, the short-term future, starts to come into focus. He's very much still attached to it, in favour there. Obviously, we'll talk about the war between the land and the sea later on in the year. But yeah, I'm relatively enthusiastic for Lucky Day. I have to admit, it's mainly based on the rumours that I've heard coming from the same place that told me that the world was going to be good. Also assure me that this is of a similar quality. The Well wasn't the kind of Doctor Who that's going to change the show, change the world, get everybody talking, but it was supremely watchable, good quality stuff, decent standard Doctor Who fare, which at this moment in time is a big up from what we've been having for several years. So yes, Charlotte, we'll be looking forward to hearing what you've got to say about it. Simon's clearly not going to be tempted back anytime soon, but a man in a rubber suit, though, Simon. English villages, all that kind of thing. It's Doctor Who boxes that are worth ticking again, aren't they? That's the kind of ground we haven't gone back to in a long time. So I do applaud them. I can't knock them for going there when that is the kind of thing that I do feel the show's been missing in part.
I would agree. It's maybe too little too late. It certainly is for me. And unfortunately, forgive me, but I dislike the lead character so intensely that
he's not in it as much, is he?
You know, if you were to bring back the Robots of Death, I wouldn't be watching it. No,
I have better news for you, Simon. This could swing it for you, because if you look down the cast list, there are two names that are designed to get a bit of attention here. Firstly, there's Paul Jericho. This is the actor Paul Jericho, who's playing Alfie. Obviously, we don't know who Alfie is, but we know who Paul Jericho is. A veteran TV actor. Lots of credits to his name: Triangle, Lewis, Casualty, Howard's Way, Secret Army, and Space 1999. There he is, back in the mid-70s. He looks thrilled to be wearing that, doesn't he? But more to the point, classic Doctor Who. Paul was the Castellan all the way back in the 80s in two stories. A very memorable turn and, a notorious exit. Matt, what do you remember about this character?
Not the mind probe. That's all I remember. I just remember the overacting a little bit, but I don't think he took it as seriously. But then I hadn't seen any of his previous work.
I don't know. I think anybody with a line, "No, not the mind probe." I think Laurence Olivier would have struggled with a line like, "No, not the mind probe." It wasn't Terrence Dix's finest hour. Let's be
remind us, Simon, which stories did Paul originally appear in?
So he's in the for 5 Doctors, and of course he's in Arc of Infinity. Firstly, it's a cracking part, and he's a good actor. But he struggled with some clunky dialogue.
You know what also annoyed me was the fact that the costumes were always ill-fitting. They just never ever liked the helmets and that. They always just looked like they weren't fit for the actors, you know.
Not made to measure, no.
No.
Well, they weren't in those days.
Today.
That was the point. Unfortunately, they weren't. They did. I mean, there you are. You can see the little skull cap that Paul's wearing there on the right. Yeah, they were. They were just straight off the. That was probably taken from the Deadly Assassin wardrobe, in all honesty.
Originally worn by Eric Chitty or one of these people.
Yes, probably, Dan. Probably, yeah. So he was only in 2 stories, and then you're quite right, Dan. He had a very ignominious exit from the 5 Doctors with the infamous line, and that's literally gone down in Who history. And that was the end of that character. His final words.
As soon as the people watching along here, Simon, in the live chat realised who we're talking about, we've got it about 6 times in the comments section here. The mind probe, the mind probe, the mind probe, the mind probe.
There was a fanzine actually called itself "No, oh no, not the Mind Probe" back in the 80s because it was so infamous.
He looks a bit happier in Doctor Who than he looked in Space 1999, but not much happier. He never does look like a happy soul, does he? So I suspect this could be a character part. Paul is 76 years of age now, still working, still very much in demand for a man of his age. So I think this could be. I think he's looking well, isn't he? This could be a fun part for him. I certainly hope so. I love it when I see actors of this this vintage turn up, this venerable and this much a part of the original show's sort of appeal, I suppose. And it's what we now call mimetic quality. Things that could be sort of quoted and live on in legend afterwards. I like that. And I think it's really good to see Paul Jericho back on the show, providing the episode's not a complete disaster, of course. In the other corner, Charlotte, we've got this fella. Now, this is where all of the mainstream attention is going on. Jonah Hoyer King. Jonah Hoyer King. He's playing Ruby's boyfriend, Conrad Clark, who's described as a cheeky podcaster. I do wonder.
Oh, brilliant.
Who's come up with that? Russell, am I a cheeky podcaster? Do I qualify for that? So he's the
every
so the
person
mainstream.
Dog's doing a podcast.
Yes, he's actually quite a renowned, well thought of actor. A 30-year-old British American actor, done lots of stuff in the past, lots of period dramas. He looks good in a trench in during the war. They're fighting for king and country. He's done a lot of sort of wartime stuff, these one-off dramas, but hit it big really as the co-star of The Little Mermaid for Disney a couple of years ago, their live-action remake of that classic animation. And he was good in this part. I saw this movie. He's pretty good in it. And he's just finished. This has just finished filming. Yeah, he's part of the legacy sequel to the 90s slasher movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer as well. I think that's coming next year. So he does seem to be somebody on the rise. A good name to get into Doctor Who before he becomes like the next Ryan Gosling or something. So what do you know of this actor, Charlotte? Have you seen him in The Little Mermaid or anything else?
Well, I don't watch the live action anymore, Disney stuff, because it just does my head in.
Very wise.
So, but I heard, to be fair, that he did a good turn. Like he was quite good in that movie. So yeah, it is good that Russell's got him, because he's clearly, Hollywood sort of has seen him now, and he's probably going to get some big roles in the future. And off that trailer, like the little scene of when he's like, "Oh, what the Doctor does," like he could. That actually was the one bit of that little 30 seconds. I thought, oh, he could be fun. Like he could be a character that, if he's not written too sort of cringy, he might be sort of like a likable sort of fool sort of character. But now you've said he's a podcaster, and I just Russell right now thinks he's really like with the times, and you can see that in the writing. So
I'm just seeing on that. Sorry, Charlotte. I'm just seeing on that hat it says Think Tank. Is that the name of the podcast? Because that sounds very something like.
The name of the podcast is Lucky Day, but obviously Think Tank is another callback to a classic story, isn't it, Simon?
It is indeed. That's as soon as I saw the name on that Think Tank. Yeah, it goes all the way back to let's see, 1974, going into 1975 with robots. Tom Baker's very first story. It is Think Tank in Tom Baker's first story that is responsible for the K1 giant robot. So that's the Think Tank. Hilda Winters and Arnold Jericho.
And that looks like Unit HQ there that he's being assaulted in. I think he's wearing sort of mobile podcast gear as well. Stephen Braddock said, "I saw The Little Mermaid." And he was good in that. Yeah, I've seen that film as well. It's pretty good. I wasn't looking forward to seeing it. I saw it under duress with my stepdaughter, but it was really quite good, and he was great in that. He could be, like I say, he could be the next big thing. In which case, Doctor Who's got in there pretty early, but he may disappear without a trace as well, like some of them do. John Doe says that sounds good, but I think he could have been talking about the sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer, which Jonah's also set to appear in.
Made in Australia.
Is it really?
Filmed in Australia. Yep.
I do love those.
Yeah, Sarah Michelle Gellar gave it out. Like she was over there too, and like she's over there too, and she took photos and put it online and shouldn't have. So
as much as I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, I love Jennifer Love Hewitt.
They're all coming back. Don't you worry. Well, the ones that live.
Great stuff. Yeah. So this is the guy that again. This is Jonah Hart. I can't pronounce. Why is it in 2025? I can't pronounce the names of anybody who writes, directs, or guest stars in this friggin' show. Yeah, so Jonah is playing fucking hell, Russell. Playing Ruby's boyfriend Conrad Clark there in Lucky Day, coming up at the weekend there. Don't look so concerned, Ruby. I'm sure it'll work out. It'll work out just fine.
I'll tell you what, the Blinks makes me want to come back. If he's in it, I'll watch it.
Yeah, he's the robot they've got sort of strapped up in the unit dungeon, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's terrible.
So I'm surprised we haven't got the other scientist with his little motorized scooter, which has got guns in it.
He was unavailable at the time.
Oh, yeah, what happened to him? I've forgotten about him.
He was caught short.
Out the door.
Oh, damn.
Yes, they're still here. Heaven knows if they're anticipating this as much as we are. There's the main story. Is it going to move the arc on any great distance? Because obviously this looks like it's a Dr. Light story. Why, when there's only 8? Heaven only knows. And how will it feed in to that overarching story there of getting Belinda home, because that's the wisest thing they've done this time, is to keep that goal, that mission statement, that central thread very, very clear and measurable, so that anybody can relate to this. Let's hope it doesn't take them too far off path when Lucky Day premieres at 7:10 on BBC One this coming Saturday. Obviously, you early birds get in there at 8 a.m. UK time and get on it if you feel so inclined. Where next? Yeah, let's have a break, I think. Have a break with Peter here. Golden faces and golden voices, as always, from Doctor Who's long and distinguished past. Some of our legends flogging us all manner of everyday household tat from back in the pre-Amazon days. See which of these things you remember, or which are you sorry you missed out on. We'll see you back here in a couple of minutes.
What you got there?
No quick soup.
Quick soap?
Ah, be special good for easing the feverish pitch of modern life. Relieving the hustle and bustle of a mad, hectic world rushed off his feet.
What are you drinking it for then?
I don't know. But it don't have to taste good.
No quick soup. Tastes more like a slow soup.
The new Doctor Who toy collection, featuring the 12th Doctor action figure and all your favourite characters.
Daleks are the supreme beings.
Join the Dalek Empire with this awesome Dalek attack vehicle. Let the invasion begin and battle the Doctor through time and space.
Exterminate!
Connect the time zone playsets. Build bigger adventures. Become the Doctor with the new touch control sonic screwdriver. The ultimate Doctor Who toy range from Character.
Hello, I'm Anita Dobson, and I'm delighted to be the Honorary President of the UK Gold VIP Club. The VIP Club is specially for UK Gold viewers and will keep you up to date with all the news and programmes on UK Gold, plus offers on videos and books. If you would like to join, then write to this address, UK Gold VIP Club, Free Post, PO Box 168, Derby, or see Gold Text, page 263 for details.
Cheers, Anita. Welcome back to your Type 40 Live, covering the future, the present, and the past of all things Doctor Who, setting you up as well for that new episode that's coming in a couple of days' time. I'm here with the panel present and as correct as they'll ever be to unwrap more Doctor Who gold from the past here. Let's get... He doesn't look too impressed, does he? Someone's stealing his thunder. Let's see how we're off for thunder here on the panel. Who's back? Who's ready? Who's it? We're all ready. Oh, this is going to be fun, isn't it? It's Simon. Simon's still smiling.
It's a grimace, Dan. It's a grimace.
So, yes, we're live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X, taking your comments. Thank you for joining us, everybody, including Matthew Pounder. He's in the live chat. And Richard Brooks is here too. Lee's into problem being himself. I'm all Disneyed out. I think I'm getting Disney diabetes.
I know you're feeling problem being.
Get well soon, mate. Get well soon. We've got Philip Roy in the live chat too. Good to see you, Phil, my friend. I think you may be making an appearance later on. Robot. Steve. Oh, that's in reference to the think tank cap. Think tank. I'd like one of those caps. If I can't get one, I bet Gary Akers can. I bet he'll be able to get one. Josh in the live chat says Russell's writing comes across as a 61-year-old man desperately trying to be relevant with cool kids and not someone using his experience to write wise material. Does that make me one of the cool kids as one of the podcasts that he's going to take?
No. I don't think so.
Funky's back in the live chat. Miss Winters, Barry Letts. Middle finger to Mary Whitehead.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I know what he means.
Duncan Evans. Yeah, that's what he was doing, I think.
We've got good evenings. We've got people rolling in. We've got Liam Neeson's chin is talking about the 11th hour. So, yeah, they're going well off topic there in the live chat. I'm sure we can pull them back on track now as we dive into yet more nostalgia, because people will be wondering, Simon, that have seen you appear on screen, your visage, and they'll be thinking, God, I hope he's brought the Doctor Who diary with him.
I've forgotten it, Dan. Oh no, I've got it here.
Left it in the smallest room of the house again. Well, maybe you've got enough time to nip up and get it, or across and get it, while I play this.
Yes, indeed. Here we are, the Doctor Who diary. It is back. Yeah, it's taken a couple of weeks off, but it is back. So welcome to Doctor Who Diary. Yeah, we are talking about what was happening this week, the last week of April, through into the first week of May, back through the past 60 odd years of Doctor Who, what was happening, what episodes were on, who was having a birthday, what things were happening in Doctor Who land in years gone by. Well, I can tell you that there were 20 new episodes screening this week. 3 new episodes today, actually, were screening in years gone by, which is surprising, really, when you think about it, because in many ways, I often still think of Doctor Who as an autumn series. But actually, there's still a heck of a lot of stuff to watch out there. Yeah, back in the day. So I would say 3 new episodes from today. Space Museum episode 2, way back in 1965. So exactly 60 years ago today, you could have been watching Space Museum episode 2. You might have been watching Colony in Space episode 4 today in 1971, or Flesh and Stone was screening in 2010.
Oh, I love that one.
Do you remember this one, Charlotte? I bet you remember Flesh and Stone.
Well, yeah, this was the Angel return.
Indeed, it was.
This was sort of afterwards. We found out Matt's first sort of filming, which just it was like, wow, this was his first bit he ever filmed, and he did that performance.
Yeah, well, that was screening today in 2010. Way back in 1969, this week, the War Games episode 3 was screening. Now, normally, in a 4-part story, you'd be coming up to the end of the story with episode 3, but my giddy aunt, the War Games was barely just getting started this week in 1969 with just episode 3. Another 7 episodes to go on the War Games. 7 episodes of The Ambassadors of Death had just finished this week, a year later in 1970. We talked about that a few weeks ago. I always find The Ambassadors of Death a little bit of a drag. That's a little bit at 7 episodes, so it had finally ground to a halt. This one for T-Dwarf Productions. Tom, I know you're in the chat. Planet of the Spiders, episode 1. So Planet of the Spiders was kicking off this week in 1974, and I remember it as clear as if it was yesterday. Exactly 20 years ago, of course, season 1 of New Doctor Who was well into its stride of enormous popularity at this point, and Dalek, that brilliant episode that's by Robert Shearman that saw the return of the Dalek, at least one of them, was back in 2005, exactly 20 years ago. Not talking about any of those in tonight's diary. Those are just a few teasers of what you could have been enjoying in years gone by. What we are doing, it's great just now that you showed Anita Dobson at the end of the adverts clips there, Dan, because I'm delighted to say that we're wishing Anita Dobson a very, very happy 76th birthday for just 2 days ago. Yeah, on Tuesday, just gone, Anita Dobson hit 76. Doesn't she look glamorous there on the right?
She always has. Yeah, I mean, even for a lady of her years.
She's a classy actor, I think, Anita Dobson. Of course, most famous to Doctor Who fans as Mrs. Flood from 7 episodes so far that started with the church on Ruby Road. First time we saw Mrs. Flood, and we're really no closer to knowing the truth of Mrs. Flood than we were back then. And again, unfortunately, I've kind of lost the will to be bothered anyway. But I love her as an actress. I think she's an absolutely cracking actress. Little bit of background about Anita Dobson, born in 1949 in Bow, but I guess in London, but I'm guessing you probably have already worked that out. So yes, she was, does that mean she was born in the Sound of Bow Bells? I'm guessing
possibly.
It probably does. Yes, she was born in 1949. in London, and her first screen work was in 1979. So she'd done a fair bit of stuff before she actually became an established actress, and her first screen roles in 1979 were very, very much bit parts. So it took her a while to you know, she was reasonably late in life before she found major success as an actress. Play Away, yeah, you can see her up on the right there. There she is in Play Away. She did an enormous amount of stuff, but very, very little stuff, actually, truth be told, before her big role of Angie in EastEnders, when she got that huge, enormous success as Angie, and of course
is that
Den.
the 80s?
Absolutely,
1985.
85, absolutely.
Okay.
It is exactly 40 years this year since Angie appeared in episode 1 of EastEnders.
Okay, that's why she's so okay. Yep,
Yeah, she
got you
did.
now.
Get this, Matt. She did 275 episodes of EastEnders. That's a heck of a lot of episodes. 275, and I say she appeared along with Letitia Dean. And as what was Letitia Dean's character called?
Sharon. She's still in it.
Sharon.
She's left and come back about 5 times, but I don't watch EastEnders anymore. But I watched it right from episode 1.
So did I.
Up until about 9 years ago, and particularly this first 5 years with this cast, specifically with Anita Dobson, she was integral.
Yeah.
And Simon, it's hard to oversell how famous, particularly Leslie Grantham and Anita Dobson were, isn't it? They were two of the most famous people in the entire country, without a doubt.
Oh, through the latter half of the 80s, 100%, Dan, you are correct. You had to be there, but there was Angie and Den fever. I mean, fever is the only word you can use. It was crackers, Charlotte. The front page of every single tabloid newspaper would pretty much have either Angie or Den or both of them on the front cover. They were enormous.
The only couple more famous
was never big here.
The only couple more famous were Prince Charles and Lady Diana. Literally the only couple that were more famous.
Yeah,
well, as I say, it talks to how famous it was, because I never have watched EastEnders, so I wouldn't have been around when it was this era, but I've seen that.
Yeah, she left in 88.
Well, that's my thing. I've seen the clip of him saying, "A divorce, my dear." Like, everybody has seen that clip.
I tell you what, Charlotte, that clip is one of the most famous clips of all time from British television. In fact, I might even argue it is the most famous clip of all time from British television. It's just gone down in history. Ian Scales, I saw you popped up a second ago, a comment from Ian Scales. Yeah, Dirty Den was indeed, Leslie Grantham was indeed in Resurrection of the Daleks. I don't know, Ian, whether it was his first screen role. It was certainly a year before he suddenly went into mega stardom with EastEnders. So yeah, he plays Kiston, a very, very brief role, lasts about 5 minutes in Resurrection of the Daleks, and then came back the following year, as I say, as Dirty Den in EastEnders. And yeah, it was absolutely huge.
I don't know about you, Simon, but because they were so famous as well. I mean, this moment was electrifying. I watched this on Christmas Day when it went out, and it was, everybody was talking about it. The room went silent on Christmas Day. But they were so famous. And even by this point, by the time EastEnders started, I'd seen Resurrection of the Daleks. It's one of my favourite stories. I'd watched it so many times. But when I went back and watched it after EastEnders fever and after Den and Angie and recognised Leslie Grantham in the background, it's like, oh my God. I felt so proud of myself that he'd been in Doctor Who.
He's almost unrecognisable in Resurrection of the Daleks in respect to what he looks like in EastEnders. You don't immediately make that connection. Great actor, very, very good. But as I say, yeah, these guys were just over every single tabloid. It was enormous. Do you also remember, this was not Anita Dobson's finest moment, she did a vocal version of the EastEnders theme tune. Do you remember, called Anyone Can Fall in Love? I would sing
remember?
They're never a good idea.
They're
never a good idea.
It was one of 3 albums, believe it or not, that she put out on the back.
Gee, I wonder who was producing that.
I'm trying to think who produced
it. Wasn't her husband, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't, Matt. Anyone Can Fall in Love, what I seem to recall, was produced by the guy who wrote.
It was a man called Simon May who.
I think it was him that did it. The typeface on that Anita Dobson On My Own, that is so 1988, isn't it? I mean, wow, that font is.
Oh, I love that. Well, that's a very Belinda Carlisle type. I love that.
It's just such an 80s typeface, the way they've done that. But I love it. It's all good stuff. It's not the greatest moment. Anybody that hasn't ever had their ears assaulted by Anyone Can Fall in Love, I do urge you to go and look it up on YouTube, simply because you won't believe it, but it is genuinely true. And I don't remember, did it do well in the charts? Do you remember?
She performed it on Top of the Pops, which obviously could have been the BBC getting behind it. But it was excruciating, and now when you hear it back, it's cringe-inducing.
It is. I mean, I'm sure she's not desperately proud.
To think, though, Simon, that all these decades on, that now Anita Dobson, obviously she's a woman of age now, is now a part of Doctor Who, albeit in a kind of minor, quite minimal way. You would never have thought this. The profile of both shows, as they were 40 years ago, you wouldn't have thought this would ever happen. She was just too huge.
Absolutely. She was in. You just can't, as you said, Dan, you can't overemphasize just how massive the success of Anita Dobson was at the time. Just absolutely incredible. And she's done a heck of a lot of stuff since Doctor Who, since EastEnders and before Doctor Who. She's done an enormous amount of stuff, nearly 100 credits on IMDb, and you don't realise how much stuff she's done. Red Dwarf, she was in Red Dwarf, Rab C. Nesbitt, New Tricks, The Bill, Call the Midwife, Inside Number 9. She's done so much stuff. And I would argue that actually she's a character actor. And we talk many times about character actors and actresses on this show, and that there aren't many of them. I would argue that Anita Dobson is very much a character actress. And I think that's proven by her role in Doctor Who. I think she is a character actress. I remember seeing her not that many years ago. Can't remember what series it was, but she played, as I recall, a murderer or something. She'd killed somebody, and it was just the most blistering, riveting performance. It was one of the best performances I've ever seen, and she was unrecognizable. You would never have known that it was Anita Dobson.
She could disappear into these parts. She was only in Red Dwarf for a spit and a cough. This was a 5-minute role, but she did so much. She was in Highlander as well, the Highlander TV show with Adrian Gore, which I absolutely love.
The girl next to her, I think she was actually the original
Kachansky. Yeah, that's Claire Grogan
as well.
Yeah, correct.
This was the episode Sirens from 1993. Red Dwarf fans. I'm a big Red Dwarf guy as well. But Anita Dobson, she was at the forefront of culture and entertainment in the tabloids, entertainment community sort of royalty, and she's partying with obviously close friend Freddie Mercury. Yeah. And as the winner of the Rear of the Year, Simon, I think she won that award a couple of years running, didn't she, for having the best Jaxie in Britain?
May I ask, when did she marry Brian May? Like, which part of her career? Was she already married to him when she was in EastEnders, when she was cast in EastEnders? Or?
No,
they met after she became famous, I think, didn't they, Simon?
Yeah. She's been married to him for a good old while now. and lots of people in the chat are reminding us that yes, she's married to Sir Dr. Brian May, to give him his absolutely full title, because he is both a Sir and an honorary doctor. He's given an honorary doctorate by a university a few years ago, so I think he's a doctor of music. I'm not a Queen fan, but I'm a very big Brian May fan, because he's a very staunch environmentalist. He's very, very much on animal welfare and the World Wildlife Fund and things like that.
Likes his digestive biscuits too.
Does he?
Have you ever seen that?
He only wears clogs as well, Matt. I don't know if you know that about it. We've got
he actually went and got to the company that made the digestive biscuits and complained to because they changed the recipe. And they went and changed it back.
He has turned into rock and roll's Jeremy Vine, I think. Philip Roy in the live chat says they met when she stunt doubled for him. That's the old joke, though, isn't it? Yes, I'm Brian May, and so is my wife.
Well, certainly looking at them on the right-hand side there, at the height of their dual popularity, the hair, certainly it's one of a kind, isn't it? You know, exactly, Ian Scales. They had similar hair. They did indeed. Not so much now, but I'm loving the jacket that Brian is sporting on the left-hand side there. That's a very funky jacket. As indeed is Anita's.
He's sort of fading into the background, isn't he? She's definitely not. That's the kind of thing I could imagine John Pertwee wearing if he was still with us.
Yes, very much. But they're a very glam couple. I mean, there they are. I presume, is that taken at the premiere for the new season down on the left-hand side?
Yeah. And the other picture was in the late 80s, not long after they got together. I mean, obviously, Brian May famously, notoriously, this was also in the newspapers because he ended his marriage, his first marriage, to be with Anita Dobson, and there was a lot of you know how these things are, but they have been together for like 35 years or so.
Very long time now. I think we can assume they're a reasonably stable couple.
Good match. But when I see pictures of them back in the day, Simon, excuse me, or Anita Dobson partying with the likes of Freddie Mercury, Freddie threw. He didn't just throw parties, he threw parties, all caps parties. And now she's now all these decades later, part of the Doctor Who community, and she's knocking about with all these people. She's going to the Radio Times covers party with Stephen Moffat, then propping him up while he's had a few, and she's at the Royal Albert Hall there for the Doctor Who prom, and doing Doctor Who conventions with Susan Twist and Gemma Redgrave. It's a world away, isn't it, to partying with Freddie Mercury?
It is, but I mean, isn't it fantastic to see that she's still going strong? Because she's remained consistent ever since leaving EastEnders. As I say, she did very little stuff before EastEnders. The 90% of her career is post EastEnders, and so although she might not be that familiar of face, you will have seen her in so many things. As I say, 275 episodes of EastEnders. She left, as you say, Dan, in 1988 in episode 343. She died as a character in 2002, though. It took a while
off
before
screen,
she died. Off screen, absolutely, she died off screen. That fortunately didn't stop her coming back for the 40th anniversary episode
as a ghost
February of this year. There she is, indeed, as a ghost.
Yeah, bear in mind, Matt, EastEnders for the most part is a very sensible show, and they never usually do stuff like this. It's very, very rare.
I'm just thinking about Home and Away. I think they've had about 10 ghosts in this so far.
No, I love as well. They were like, she has to have the hair back. Like, you have to make it as possible closely to what she had back in the day.
I know, and actually, she pulls it off, doesn't she, Charlotte?
She looks brilliant. Like, she looks good. She doesn't look
like a ridiculous old lady in a bad wig. She's pulling it off.
Is that a wig?
It'd
have to be a wig.
Yes, it's a wig.
So.
It's made to look like how she left.
Yes,
that right?
Exactly. That's exactly
it. It's like evoking.
So forget the fact that she's aged.
Yeah, no. And I say, to be fair, they've done it pretty well there. I didn't even realise that she'd come back to EastEnders.
I haven't watched EastEnders for years, but this is up on their YouTube channel. Just this scene isolated on its own. It's really worth a watch.
Oh, I'll go and have a look at it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and she's there in the shoulder pads and the tie, the kind of Colin Baker style silk tie. It's lovely.
It's set, isn't it, in the old Vic, upstairs in the old Vic, and am I right? She comes as an apparition to Sharon, her daughter. Is that? I think
that's right. That's right. Yeah. It's all good fun. It's all good fun.
All good. Yeah, absolutely.
And the blonde girl is her daughter. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's right.
Her screen daughter, who is still in EastEnders now. But so a happy 76th birthday to Anita Dobson from last Tuesday. We wish you very, very happy birthday. She looks far more glamorous on the right than she does on the left. I'm sure she's not too chuffed by that particular photo on the left. She looks a bit like Beth warmed up, bless her. Looks more like a ghost in that one. So
they've had her look worse in scenes than that.
That's very, very true. Very, very true. So moving on from birthdays, we now move to something rather a little bit out there. We've talked about all the episodes that were screening this week in years gone by, 23 of them. That we're not talking about any of those. What we are talking about is some quite significant and important filming that took place this week. And when I give you the year, you will know immediately what it is, I'm sure. 1979. All of the filming in Paris for City of Death took place this week in 1979. 4 days of filming between the 30th of April, so just a couple of days ago, through 4 days, as I say, until the 3rd of May, in 2 days from now. All of it taking place in Paris, France. The very, very first time, Charlotte, that the show had ever gone abroad. We take for granted now that every so often the show goes abroad. And in fact, now they film in far off locations like Dubai or wherever it might be. And they don't even make a song and dance about it. Nobody even knows. You sort of have to go and look it up on Wikipedia to see, was that episode filmed abroad? Whereas back in the day, wow, this was a big thing that they were going for the first time abroad. This filming was originally going to take place in the studio. The story was proposed. And was in the process of being commissioned and written. And the plan was originally, and you think about it now and you think what a ghastly thought, but it was originally going to be filmed in a studio. It was good old John Nathan Turner that got his calculator out and worked out that actually, ironically, location filming would be cheaper and would certainly be logistically easier and obviously far more successful. So it was down purely ultimately to the finances of it, so that to the money that they could actually film easier by taking a very, very small crew of 3 or 4 people and a very small number of actors, just the 3 of them, Tom Baker, Lalla Ward, and of course Tom Chadbourne. Those are the only actors that got to go abroad. I certainly think Catherine Schell was a little bit miffed about not having got to go abroad to Paris. And they filmed this week in May week in Paris. That's why you get all those beautiful pink blossoms in some of the opening shots. And it looks
Simon, this would have always been a distinctive story anyway. But taking it abroad. Not only when Doctor Who had never really been abroad before, but taking it abroad and getting it up on screen as well, not just a few corners here and there, that's really helped it sort of maintain and endure its appeal. I think there's no story quite like this, is there? And I think it is largely down to the fact that it feels authentic.
I think so. I remember reading in the Radio Times back in the day in 1979. I remember reading in the Radio Times, it said, the Doctor and Lalla go to Paris. And I remember thinking, wow, I wonder how they've done that. I presume they must have done it in the studio. It's going to look really naff. And then, of course, it starts, you're like, oh, my God. They actually have gone to Paris. Ian Scales, you're absolutely right, JNT was totally responsible for it going to Paris. Duncan, I love that. 1979, more of a table wine, indeed. A famous quote by Tom, by the Doctor from the episode. So what happened with all of this was that the director Michael Hayes went out with his son actually to do and the art director to do a recce of Paris. First beforehand to check it all out and to find the locations, and then sure enough they did go out. They flew out on the 30th of April, so as I say 2 days ago, and they immediately went to the first location. So they flew in to, yesterday, actually. It was the 30th of April. Yeah, yes, exactly yesterday. They flew in to Paris Charles de Gaulle airport, and they went immediately, they hot-footed, just as they are in that shot, off to the Galerie Denis René, where they were going to film the first sequence. Charlotte, this was the exterior of the gallery where the TARDIS is supposed to have landed. So these were exterior shots, supposedly of the Doctor and Romana going in and out of the gallery. All brilliant, great idea. It was all going so well until they realized that actually it was a bank holiday. May in Paris was a bank holiday, and everything was closed. Everything was closed. They hadn't clocked this. Somebody had not done their research. Maybe this was J&T's fault. He hadn't done his research quite right. So they got to the gallery, and of course it's closed. So the only way they could shoot it was by having lots of shots of Tom or Lala going up to the doors and looking as though they were about to go in, with the idea then obviously you cut to the interior in the studio. But sadly, Tom, in his frustration on one of the first shots, went running up to the door and made it look as though he was going to go in, but he was supposed to downplay it and not actually go in. But no, Tom being Tom, apparently he slammed into the door so hard that it set all the alarms off in the art gallery. So the crew did a runner and got out as quick as they could, and poor old JNT was left to pick up the pieces when the police arrived. And he was left to explain in sort of broken French why the alarms had gone off in this gallery, and that don't worry, there's nothing wrong. So they got into trouble on day one. Day two,
Simon, British TV didn't go abroad that often, then, did it? Or am I imagining
BBC.
things that any kind of drama? It was quite a rare thing.
Oh, television generally did not go abroad. This was very, very rare. Certainly for a show that was sort of almost considered a children's show to go abroad. Yeah, it just didn't happen in those days.
May I just ask, did they ask permission to film in France, or didn't you have to back in those days?
They kind of half did and they half didn't. Most of it, to be honest, was done guerrilla style.
Okay.
So,
Really?
So yeah, they didn't. They got some permissions from some of the cafes and things like that in advance, but a lot of it was shot guerrilla style. But this again is where it all went pear-shaped, Matt, because they got permission to film at the cafe, but again they arrived exactly today, back in 1979, the 1st of May, to find that, hey presto, the cafe was also closed. So they couldn't film in the cafe, which caused enormous problems because the designer had already designed the studio sets based on the exterior of the cafe, and that's why when you see the shots of Tom and Lala sitting outside the cafe, you never actually see the cafe. You all the shots are looking as though your back is to the cafe, and you are looking at Tom and Lala with Notre Dame Cathedral in the background, because they couldn't show the exterior of the cafe. They didn't even use the cafe that they had planned to use in the end. Because the owner refused to turn up. They got a number for him and phoned him up, and he refused to turn up and open up the cafe. So they tried next door. Next door's cafe, you'll be delighted to hear, was actually called Who's, WHO''S. It was actually called Who's. That one was closed as well. So they ended up, as I say, by Notre Dame, but they couldn't use that. They had to avoid using the actual exterior of the cafe itself to avoid clashes with the studio sets. Tomorrow was the Champs-Élysées and the Louvre, which they were also denied permission to use filming on that, Matt. So they tried to get permission for the Louvre. They only found out on the morning of the 2nd of May that they couldn't. There we go. There they are sitting outside the cafe. that they couldn't use the exterior of. So they got permission. They applied for permission to film outside the Louvre, but they only found out on the morning of the 2nd of May that they couldn't. So they did that very much guerrilla filmmaking, as Philip Roy says there. Nobody would ever do guerrilla filmmaking, would they, Phil? I know that you would never ever.
We have two.
It's not very doctorish, is it?
We have two of them in the live chat, Philip Roy and our Type 40 live panelist, Luke Walters, both in the live chat, who I suspect each of those gentlemen know a thing or two, about guerrilla filmmaking.
I have done a lot of guerrilla film. In fact, I'm delighted to say I have done guerrilla filmmaking myself in Paris. I had to film for an ITV show, and we had absolutely zero permissions, none whatsoever. We went for a whole weekend. We took a small camera, packed in my rucksack, and I made out for the weekend that I was just filming holiday footage. And I had people there. So we were filming people. I wasn't just filming shots of Paris. We were filming people, and it was done entirely guerrilla. We filmed right at the top of.
I love it.
I hope the Paris
great.
authorities aren't watching. We filmed right at the top of the Eiffel Tower. I had to do the bye Duggan line, which I did do. And we filmed at the top of the Eiffel Tower with my cast, almost recreating Tom and Lala's moment at the top of the Eiffel Tower. So I've done it. I've been there. I'm delighted to say I've done it. But also, you'll see when you watch, again, Matt, when you watch City of Death back, the shots of them at the Louvre are all done on a very long lens. Basically, the camera crew are on one side of the street. Tom is on the far side, and Tom actually goes up to some genuine security guards and asks them a question, a completely different question, and they just film that, and then Tom walks off, and then it's all post-dubbed afterwards because they had no permission to film at the Louvre. So that was done completely undercover. That shot was done entirely undercover. They also, the original plan had been that they would film a very spectacular opening shot where the camera would be down on the ground looking up at the top of the Eiffel Tower with Tom and Lala at the very top. There we go. They would have been right at the top of that. The camera would have been basically standing where Tom and Lala are now. And they would have done this incredible pullback shot on a 600mm lens to show Tom and Lala at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and they'd hired the lens from Spanish a Spanish hire company, and it was all going so well. And then they realised on location that the lens would not fit on to the BBC camera, and the shot had to be abandoned. And that's why the shot is not in the finished production. It would have been there, but sadly they couldn't film it. It's a shame, isn't it? It would have been an amazing shot.
So basically, it's an absolute miracle anything went on screen.
Charlotte, you are right.
For this episode.
And when you look at it, Charlotte, do you not? Have you seen City of Death?
Yeah, no, I've seen City of Death.
So I mean, I'm assuming you're quite impressed by the location shooting. It looks good, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, because it's sort of, as soon as you, like you said, you have those established shots, you go, oh God, they're in Paris. Like, even like as somebody who's coming to classic, who's used to, like you said, modern, who just casually going abroad. I think it's because they've in the story they make the effort, they make the point. Obviously, if they went to do it, of course they were going to make the point.
Yes,
but it's sort of this idea of the Doctor taking her on holiday. Is such a lovely idea at the beginning, and how Tom is a bit dismissive, or his Doctor is, of like the artwork and all the other stuff which most humans, and this once again shows how good they were with the character at this point. He's in France, he's by the Louvre, he's by all these beautiful things that humans would be amazed by, and he's just like, oh, they're all right. And like Layla's a bit more sort of taken in by it all. So it shows their dynamic, and it's such a simple way to do it, but it's such a beautiful and distinctive way. Like I said, they could have done this in the studio, but it wouldn't have had the effect in the slightest.
It would have just been awful. It would have been awful.
But I do have to go, everybody.
On that note, you'll go. Good night, Charlotte.
Good night.
Thank you again
on Saturday.
Charlotte. if you're free on Saturday, and you can stand more instant reactions. Yeah, by all means, we'll see you then. Take care.
I'll see you guys then.
Night.
Night.
So yeah, those photos that you just got up there, Dan, a second ago, of course, that is Michael Hayes in the blue jacket. That is the director there, and there you can see the camera. So you can see that they've got a clapperboard and everything. They did it properly, but they just had to do it sort of quite surreptitiously and as cleverly as they could. And on some private property where they did get permissions. They had a problem, Matt, on the Metro. They did some filming on the Metro, but oddly, one of the Metro people in charge came up and said they didn't have permission, but there wasn't a problem with filming. But bizarrely, they didn't have any problem with filming. They had a problem with the tripod, which you can see on the left shot there. Just about, you can see the tripod that the camera is on top of, and they had no permission to use a tripod on the underground station. And so they were allowed to do the filming
because it could obstruct a walkway or something like that as well.
Yeah. So they were allowed to do the filming, which just clearly would not happen today. You wouldn't be allowed to do the filming. But that's why, again, when you watch the footage on the Metro, the few shots of them on the Metro platform, you can see it's clearly done handheld, because they had to remove the tripod at that point. My favourite part of all of this is these shots here, Dan, where Tom and Lala are just running around France. Are running around Paris. These were all shot the day after tomorrow, on the 3rd of May, all of the shots of them running around Paris. And again, Tom Chadbon is in those shots as well. And those, Matt, are shot completely guerrilla in that, they just basically set the camera up and got them to walk. And they filmed it, that's why all of those shots are at a long shot. They're very much, you can see that it's a very long lens, so that the camera is a long distance away from the actors, because that again was the way they could shoot this without drawing attention to themselves. Because it looked like they were just sort of shooting wide shots of Paris rather than actually shooting actors. There's one little kid there. Look at that, the look on that little kid's face watching on the right-hand side.
Well, he's got a gun too, which is
it does look like he has. He does. Doctor Who was not screening in France in 1979. It wasn't on television.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, it wasn't on television. So as a result, that's why when you see Tom and Lala running around, nobody's paying them any attention whatsoever, because they're just not known.
They fit in.
They fit in. they look right, don't they, Matt? When you look at it, they look right for Paris. Tom, in particular,
yeah, they do.
He looks totally at home in Paris, and so they managed to avoid any real publicity. Nobody really spotted them because they were complete unknowns. Nobody had a clue who they were.
I was wondering if they would get any government complaint afterwards, like when it would screen or whatever. But if it wasn't shown in France, they wouldn't have known.
They wouldn't even have known. They wouldn't have known. I mean, I think it just wouldn't happen nowadays. Obviously, none of it would all be signing triplicate years before. But Lala Ward sort of said, I'm going to quote her, she said, "We had to film loads of scenes in the rain and cold. There was no glamour in it at all. It was a frenetic 4-day shoot, well, as to say 3.5-day shoot, really. And they had a lot of stuff to film in. Lala was also very unimpressed. The red shoes that you can see on Lala Ward at that point became something of a controversial element of the shoot, because Doreen James, the wardrobe person on this, was accused of having lost them in Paris, and Lala Ward blamed Doreen James, who quit as a result midway through the shoot. She was not happy at having allegedly, obviously this is all hearsay, but allegedly Lala Ward blamed.
I think I've read this story somewhere.
I kind of believe it.
And you wouldn't want to be the wrong side of Lala Ward's anger. She's a feisty, she's a strong-willed woman, and the red shoes apparently went missing. I don't know at what point they went missing, because clearly Lala Ward is wearing them there, unless, of course, this is a different pair of red shoes. But what's also beautiful about this particular photo is supposedly it was in Paris rather perfectly that Tom and Lala Ward fell in love.
You can see it in the photos. You really can.
You can,
especially
Matt,
with
right.
Tom.
You're right. The rest is history. And I think Lalla Ward talks about this and sort of says, well, you know, if you're going to fall in love anywhere, it's obviously going to be Paris in the springtime. And it is rather lovely. You look at the photos of them together, this one in particular. You look at the footage of them in City of Death, running along the streets hand in hand. You can see they are clearly in love. They might not have necessarily loved each other, but maybe it was something about the Parisian air. It was the spring blossoms. They fell for each other. At this point, and it wasn't long after this, of course, that they got married. So there we go.
Tom would have been about 45, 46 then, wouldn't he have?
Say again?
Simon? Tom would have been about 45, 46 by this time.
Mid-40s. Yeah, mid-late 40s at this point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probably late 40s by now.
Had he had a previous marriage, or?
He got married quite young, hadn't he, Simon? Had a couple of kids.
Yeah.
But by this point, he'd been single for a good long while as well, 10, 15 years.
Long time. He'd had various girlfriends, but nothing too serious. But finally, my favourite story about the Parisian filming is, there we go. Now this goes to show these are the press stories that came out at the time. These were all, I think, the 5th of May. That particular weekend TV spectacular is from. So just a couple of days later, because the Fleet Street, the great and the good of Fleet Street, were invited out to the filming. And many of them went, and many of them got very drunk, and apparently so did Tom get very drunk at one occasion.
Really?
Yeah, apparently so. I know it's tough to believe, and that Tom was not to begin with. He wasn't too happy, I don't think, with the press being there, simply because they had so much to film, that he didn't really want to be held up by the press. And of course, there's a photo there on the left-hand side. You've shown various photos, Dan. There are lots and lots of publicity photos from the shoot. So they had a lot of filming to do, but all of the Fleet Street journalists wanted to get their shots of Tom and Lalla on location. And allegedly, Tom Baker was also a little bit nonplussed, shall we say, by the attention that Lalla Ward got from the photographers. These were the very first press photos of Lalla Ward in character as Romana. These were her first press photos. So the Fleet Street journalists were very much enamoured with Lalla Ward and very, very keen to take lots and lots of photos of her, which didn't apparently go down quite so well with Tom Baker, who of course was the true star of the show, and he wanted all the publicity. So I think he would have very happily done all the photos on his own, but no, Fleet Street wanted Lalla Ward in these photos, and that's why she's in every single one. I don't think there's really any photos of publicity photos of Tom on his own, which is rather unusual when you think about it. They've all got Lalla Ward in there.
Beautiful.
But my
favourite, whether they're in colour or black and white as well, Simon. They're just character,
They're
atmosphere.
great. They're great.
Locations.
Good photos.
Yeah,
you can see they had a whale of a time there.
Makes you want to go back and watch the story, and maybe go to Paris, but mainly watch City of Death again.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you who it did make want to go to Paris, and this is my final and favourite story about the Parisian filming, and that's that. So all the crew have disappeared off, and the stars have disappeared off to Paris in France in 1979. Who has not gone to Paris for this particular May weekend? Douglas Adams, the script editor.
Right.
So Douglas Adams is left sitting in the production office while they're all off in Paris. Ken Grieve, the director of Destiny of the Daleks, which is the next story to go into production, is also in the production office prepping for Destiny of the Daleks. So what do they decide to do? Douglas Adams comes up with a brilliant idea, of course, that they have to go off to Paris to find the crew and the cast and help them out. So sure enough, Douglas Adams and Ken Grieve do indeed get into a plane, and they fly out to Paris and track down the crew who are less than impressed, Matt. They are less than impressed. Graham Williams in particular, the producer, is certainly not happy that his script editor and the director of the forthcoming story, who he's supposed to be prepping, is now in Paris for no good reason whatsoever, interfering with the filming that they've got a lot to do in just 3.5 days. So they are sent unceremoniously back to London. But they don't go back to London. Of course they don't. They end up on a mega pub crawl around Paris for the rest of the day. They are eventually thrown out of the pub in Montmartre, where they have ended up at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And they decide then they are going to fly off to Berlin to another pub that Ken Grieve knows of. I'm not kidding you. All this is absolutely true. The only thing that stops them flying to Berlin is they can't manage to get a flight out to Berlin. So they do, at about 5 o'clock the next morning, get a flight back to London. They arrive in London and Douglas Adams goes straight back to his day job of script editing in the production office, and Ken Grieve has to go off to the hospital to have stitches in a gash above his eye that nobody quite remembers how it ended up getting there. This is all true. All of this is true. No word.
Somewhat of a bender. When you go to another country just to go to a pub, wow.
Only Douglas Adams would do this. So all this was happening this week back in 1979. So happy birthday to the filming of City of Death.
Fun stories about a fun story and lots of terrific facts as well. As always, Simon, thank you again for another rip-roaring diary.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But I mean, Matt, I'm assuming you've seen City of Death and
oh yeah.
It's beautiful filming. It's beautiful filming. It was well worth going out to Paris.
I remember the shock of seeing them out and about, and the amount of film that they did, because I was so used to them being in studio, you know.
And they do a heck of a lot. There's a lot of film in there for only 3 days. There's a lot of film in there.
Douglas Adams, such a legend, says problem being in the live chat. Shelley Ingle says, what an interesting story. Got laughing emojis as well being dropped pretty much everywhere. International pub crawling, says Peter Venkman. That's showbiz. That's Peter Harrington. And Lee says, they must have had one too many Pangalactic gargle blasters. Maybe one or two. It gets the seal of approval there. Round of applause from Dalek Lives Matter. And Fly Highland says that my theory has always been that this story was the most viewed of classic Who simply because of Lala Ward in that outfit. You mucky pup.
Do you know what? It's funny, Fly Highland. It is funny, Fly Highland, because Lala Ward chose that outfit. She asked Doreen James, who she then allegedly fell out with, to put her in that costume. She thought it would be ridiculously funny and great fun for the young girls in the audience to watch somebody in the kind of uniform they were going to school in. She genuinely never clocked that all of the dads would be licking the screen and sending letters of affection to her. She never clocked it. Never got it. Couldn't make it up.
What would Patrick Troughton have to say about all that? Actually, he'd probably join in. Think of it.
He'd be laughing like a drain.
A cute story, says Shelley Engel. I've been to France, says Tom from T Dwarf Productions. Good stuff.
Good.
Excellent
Paris,
as always. Lots of appreciation for the diary, for City of Death, and for you too, Simon. People love having you back. Loving the diary as well. Fabulous stuff. So many riches, no doubt, to be unearthed on future installments as well. There's a never-ending supply.
Never-ending. We're never going to run out of stuff for the diary. Let's be honest.
It doesn't look like it. Yeah. So let us know what you think. Maybe you've been to Paris, just like Tom has there. Let us know by all means your experience. And did you track some of those locations? Did you visit them there in a bit of a pilgrimage to celebrate the classic series and that fabulous seminal Doctor Who story? Thanks again, Simon. What a cracker! More coming up. Yes, you're watching Type 40 live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook with more Who than you could possibly than you could possibly handle. And there's a little more coming up as well. So stay tuned, stay exactly where you are, because this is where stuff gets even prettier as Lala Ward in those red shoes and all that stuff.
Hello, I'm Philip Roy playing the Doctor in the Doctor Who fan film Doctor Who Meets the Scorpion. I've been on quite an adventure, and this is most definitely the Type 40 podcast.
Cheers, Phil. Okay, yeah, flying the flag for the talent, dedication, and wealth of creativity out here in the Doctor Who fandom. Finally, it's second to none, and so there's never any shortage of pretty pictures to distract us from our duller everyday lives. And at Type 40 Live, we've always done what we can to encourage and showcase Doctor Who fan art and fan artists in our virtual gallery. So yeah, we haven't got any kind of swanky Parisian joint to deck out. We've just got these bloody great big grey walls, as always, here in the current TARDIS. My God. So we need as much fan art as we can possibly get, whether it's traditional or digital, cosplay and model making. It's all fair game. If you can snap it, we can whack it up on the... God.
Oh, I can't believe you said that.
Why do I say this shit? We can whack it up here.
It's the times. It's the times.
Yeah, I blame Russell T Davies. When in doubt, blame Russell T Davies. Yeah, so we can put it up on the walls here for everybody else to have a big old gander at it. So you can send us its way or it our way. We don't care how it works as long as we get hold of that fan art to whack up here on the walls. And first of all, we've got this terrific brand new cartoon here from friend of the show. This is from Grant Perkins, the noted illustrator and artist, great big geek too, into not just Doctor Who, which I think we all knew because of his previous work for Doctor Who Adventures, but it seems Star Wars as well. He's combined them for this R2D Who illustration here that he's put about on social media as a sort of sketch card, and people can bid on all this stuff with the proceeds going to charity, Matt.
Yeah, I could tell it was a trading card because I've tried to do them and they're just so hard. I can't do minuscule. I just can't do minuscule. It's very
tricky. And you've got to stop the cards from moving around as well. You've got to kind of fix them down, tape them down, which that's common practice anyway. But it's even harder when you've got to surface.
And they're awful. They're awful.
Yeah.
But this is great. This is great.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, Grant is a prolific artist, illustrator, and cartoonist. You can find him on X and Instagram as well. And that's so cute. May the 4th be with you, says Steve Brown. It's May the 1st, mate. It's May the 1st, but I know what you mean.
We're nearly there.
Yeah, it's a 30 today.
Tom Baker meets Kenny Baker, says crimpling doubloon.
Oh, very good.
Hey.
Too many jelly babies, Dan, says Peter Harrington. Have you... Jelly babies, my God. I haven't had a jelly baby in years. Cheers all, says Philip Roy.
No, they don't sell them anymore. They're too illegal.
Yes, cool. People do like this. So I like Grant's style. You see, I like that kind of jagged style that he's got and the brighter colours. It's very much the kind of stuff that I do as well. And the white keyline as well around R2 and the sonic screwdriver with a few little sort of wavy lines there to indicate sonicness in operation. RTD Who. They're almost as bad at puns as I am, but still brilliant stuff from Grant Perkins. You can go and find him on social media. I think X is his favourite, but he is across the platforms, and several books in print as well featuring Grant's work. I think he regularly turns up in Doctor Who magazine as well. That's lovely, says Peter Harrington. Tom likes R5D4 better. I like that one as well. That was the droid that I had when I was a kid. The toy.
Was that the red? Was that the red?
Yeah,
that was the one with the burnt motivator.
Orange and white. Yeah.
Orange and white. Yep.
Oh, I see. Lee's worked with them all. I met R2D2 on the set of Solo.
Oh.
Yeah. So people like this one. It seems. Grant, if you are watching, because of course we are streaming over to X, maybe he's caught it. But most of the fan art this last week has, perhaps unsurprisingly, revolved around that brand new episode of Doctor Who. And there are several pieces celebrating the well that aired at the weekend by Sharma, Angel, Wolfall, and Russell T Davies. First, this one from Sound by Synth, which was one of possibly my favourites, I think. Nothing to do with the fact that we've got Veronica Setu in that very tight spacesuit. I like how Alice is framed at the top, looking fraught and looking as if we don't really know what's on her mind, which that ambiguity really informed the story and that character as well, and really kept to the heart of the story, us focused on her in a really enjoyable sort of story full of old school thrills. So I like this. I like the colours. I like the balance of it. And Matt, I think we could get fatigue, couldn't we, from looking at digital composition artwork. So to make it stand out, you've got to be that little bit more creative with how you use the elements and not use the same old pictures that we might have seen everywhere in the same way.
Well,
and
it's better than the official BBC stuff, that's for sure.
Far better.
That I've seen recently.
Far. Of course, using typography is another skill, and they don't always get that right. But I really like this. And Sound My Synth, which I can never pronounce, is up on X, and on Instagram. Lots of great fan art and regular posters for each episode. So we do try and rotate the artists that we feature, but this is one of the very reliable digital artists out there on X. You won't be disappointed if you follow their work. So I thought that was my favourite. And then I saw this one from Oliver Chenery, which is even more sort of illustrative, with some heavy graphic elements. They're playing on the idea that this was a sequel to Midnight, the 2008 story, and bringing in the kind of the motif with the clock and more of the characters and that kind of heightened tension that was present throughout the story. Oliver's chosen to put the Doctor Who logo and the Disney Plus logo atop this to make it a bit more sort of commercial. But as an illustration, this really captures that intensity of this story. I can't decide which of these I like the best, so I thought I might as well show you both, everybody. Let's see what people have got to say about these.
I like that
says
one.
Lothar.
That one almost makes me want to watch the episode, but it's obviously an imaginary thing. So I'm assuming this is not from the episode. It's completely out of
no.
imagination.
What he's done, everything. Well, the numbers, the numerals from the clock face have been added, and the smoke's been added as well. But the rest of it is from the episode.
Okay.
To be fair.
Okay. Well, it's really good to say. It almost makes me want to watch the episode more than any other image I've seen so far of the well.
A lot of clocks on floors lately in this era. If you notice, because there's that one with Shooty as well.
Oh yeah, that's the Entertainment Weekly shoot, isn't it?
Yeah,
nice and moody, says Matthew Pounder. The lighting is lovely and adds so much darker than the story. And the story's pretty dark, but this artwork is even darker. Richard Brooks is bored of the colour palette. Yeah, a lot do use the same colours. In all fairness, this episode is so blue and so gold that realistically, they've got any fan artist that comes to sort of do this, they've really got to lean into that colour palette to illustrate the story and to capture the mood. But I do know what you mean, generally speaking, Richard. Superb. Love the shadows and the depth, says Stephen Braddock. Yeah,
it's good. It's very atmospheric. Really, really nice piece of art.
Which ones you prefer? Impressive, says Cheryl. Atmospheric looks like a book cover. So yeah,
it does actually. Yeah, good point, Stephen. It does.
Symbolic. Yeah, so I can't quite decide whether I like Oliver's best or Sound My Synths, but you can find them both on X and Instagram. Go and say hello. Go and follow them and tell them that Type 40 Live sent you by all means. The rise of AI, as with a lot of modern technology, it's open to misuse, Simon. We don't want to end up with a Skynet situation, do we?
We certainly don't. We definitely
not. But for now, I'm very, very grateful for AI because it means we can finally see stuff like this, which has lived in our imaginations for 50-odd years, thanks to one Mr. John Pertwee. Now we can finally see a Yeti sitting on his loo in Tootenbeck, courtesy of Spanky Backpack and the power of AI over on X. And this genuinely made me laugh. Very tricky to get a Yeti right. But I think that Spanky here has managed it beautifully. And John Pertwee actually looks like John Pertwee as well.
It's fantastic. That's so clever. So clever.
AI may have peaked right here and now, Matt. Everybody else can pack it in, can't they?
Yeah.
Once we've seen this, what is there left to see?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, you don't want to see that on your loo.
You certainly don't.
You really don't.
That's disturbing.
It used to give me nightmares at 5 years of age. That did.
The Crimpling the Balloon does caution that the loo is going to be blocked up. I think he could be right. Philip Roy advises at least one other flush, and that's funny, says Richard Brooks. Yes, so I really like this. Peter Harrington says that made me giggle. Where's the paper, mate?
I can't do it while people watch me.
Funky says I should have gone before filming started. And Richard Brooks says Yeti poo Pertwee. Very good. Very good. Yes, we do like to leave the tone of the show, exactly where we picked it up, low, very low. Toilet bowl low, in fact. But yeah, we are open to any kind of fan art you wish to send our way. As always, whether it's AI, traditional, or digital, or any other kind of fan art that you can name, how can you get it to us? Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Reach out to us through our social media. That's the start. Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, or you can simply join us in the Type 40 Facebook group and cut out the middleman there and plaster the walls with fan art, whether it's your own or simply an artist that you follow and you enjoy and you respect and you admire and you want to share their work. Share their work with us. You can share your opinions too through SpeakPipe, reviews, messages, questions, predictions, any kind of feedback whatsoever. It's all game over on SpeakPipe. So go over there and drop us a message, whether it's about what we're doing or what they're doing on season 2 of all new Doctor Who that's screening right now, heading up to the halfway mark at the weekend. And yeah, we'll be back in 2 days or 2 nights or mornings time to give our instant reactions to another one on Type 40 Live. Guys, it's been great to have you both back. Have you got any FOMO there? Are you missing out on seeing these episodes? Or are you quite happy to see what we've got to say and then move on with the rest of your week, Simon? I think that's probably
I'm afraid so. I am afraid so.
Latter.
And it's interesting because, I mean, I've heard so many good reports about the well. I have. So it clearly seems to have worked. And so, well done to them for getting it right.
Better late than never.
But sadly, it's just too little too late for me. I've just got zero. Even knowing that everybody's saying, oh, this is the best episode in a long time, it's just not enough for me, I'm afraid, anymore.
I get it. And if you feel that way, imagine how the general public feel, Matt. I was thinking right here.
And spot on. Yeah, that's the problem.
Look, like I said, I'm swaying between whether or not I should watch the finale because, like, this could be the end of Doctor Who forever. And I don't want it to end, but I know that it's probably for the best for the series. And for the legacy of what we've had.
I remain in no doubt, Matt, that it will not end. Yes, I think there is a very, very good chance it's going to be a long time before we see another series of Doctor Who. I do think that's possible.
Yeah.
But it will come back, 100% guarantee. Yes, exactly, Chris. At some point, I guarantee it will come back.
We'll be back, or some of us will. This coming.
I don't watch when I'm 70.
Yeah, we're going to bring you Type 40 Live's instant reactions to this 4th episode, Lucky Day, as soon as we can make it back to the mics and the webcams. Some of us and a few guests from across podcasting and YouTube, as ever, with our hottest of takes as we're processing Lucky Day directly after the BBC One broadcast. We'll be taking your comments, rants and raves, all your opinions as ever. So that's this coming Saturday from 8 p.m. UK time with myself and Charlotte and Who Knows Who. Okay, let's have a look and see if we've got any final comments there to sign off with. Who, yes, thank you everybody for sticking with us despite the lowering of the
There's some
tone.
great stuff in the chat. I'm just skimming through it now. There's some really good comments in the chat.
They've been on form. They've been on form this time. Vanessa's in the live chat too. Hi, Vanessa.
Hello,
again,
Vanessa.
Thank you to Vanessa, to Lee, to Lord Thoth, and to PD Rich, and all the moderators here at the Type 40 YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your time.
And I've got to say, I've discovered tonight the Problem Being is an extra in certain films and was in Solo and Rogue One. So respect to Problem Being. Never knew that until tonight. So that's one to put in his CV, isn't it?
So, I've known Lee for quite a long time now, so this stuff I forget that not everybody knows this.
Yeah,
He's
I
a
had
man
no
of
idea.
many talents, so many talents that you can really make you dislike somebody. But
I want to know whether you can see Problem Being in the Rogue One or Solo. I'm intrigued.
You blink and you miss it, but he really should be a Sith.
You can see him in the final Harry Potter film, stood on the train platform. You're in that, aren't you, Lee?
Yeah,
so,
he is. He's
has
just popped in the chat to say, the last Harry Potter movie. Can you see him on the platform? I'm going to go looking for him. What's he wearing?
I can't remember. I think you're in a hat and scarf, aren't you, pal? I can't
Right,
quite
we need to know what you're wearing, Problem Being. Give me a time code. I want to know where you are. I'm going to go and
So
find
you probably miss him because you're so busy looking at the bad makeup on that Daniel Radcliffe.
He's got some great stories to tell. I won't attempt to tell his stories. He should come on and perhaps tell us again one more time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's coming up next? Yeah. Again, instant reactions to the 4th episode of this season. So make sure you're subbed up, have your notifications turned on there if you hit the cloister bell, and we'll continue to make it through together. My God, what a great show. Yes, the chat has been absolutely buzzing this time. Thank you very, very much. A big hello to Gary Akers out there. He was supposed to be here on the show. He had a technical malfunction there just before the show. He would have loved the City of Death piece, so we may have to do that one again just for Gary. But even the people who can't make it, we've got Luke in the live chat as well. Several Type 40 people are very much in rotation, in orbit. So best of luck at the weekend to you, Luke. He's over there in Ireland with his films. I can't wait to hear how he gets on after he sobers up, obviously. Okay, so Matt, as our real life time traveler, obviously you've got the inside skinny on what's going on Friday. How's it looking where you are, pal? And what are you looking forward to this weekend if you're not watching Doctor Who?
As you can see, I got me beanie on. I'm freezing me bum off.
It's been so warm here today, Matt. It's been the hottest.
Well, you've got all our heat, haven't you?
It's getting warmer.
Yeah, and we're not even in winter yet. So, but Tasmania is always a little bit cooler because we're so close to Antarctica. So that doesn't help. So, but it's a bit chilly. It's getting chillier.
Well, we're glad you were happy to brave our stream before you got to brave the cold.
I popped the heater on, but I'm still cold.
Thank you
Bless
again,
you.
Simon. Good to have you back, mate.
Good to be back.
Glad you could fit us in. I hope Lenny's feeling better now too.
Yeah, he's been a little bit poorly today, but he's fast asleep now, so I think he's quite happy.
And Charlotte Shields, of course, all tucked up in bed by now. But where would we be without our Queen Charlotte? So thank you to her as well, and everybody watching and still commenting there. Thank you so much. But that does wrap it up for this one. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live, but we are back in less than 48 hours with those instant reactions to the next episode. We must be mad. Well, you, all of us collectively must be barking mad. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.